Hey guys, welcome to another 1Warrior podcast. The viewership for this podcast continues to go up every single week. Lately, we've been getting hundreds of more views than usual. So I just want to start out right off the bat and say thank you for all the new listeners, the new followers, the new subscribers, depending on what platform you're on, and all the new people that have found me online and followed me and sent me personal emails. I appreciate it. I'm open to all. I will always answer all your questions, and I'm just glad to have you here as a listener. Now, with that said, this podcast that I'm doing today has been one of the most recommended podcasts that I've been told to talk about. I've literally been messaged this thing constantly, and that one thing was how to raise testosterone levels. It seems to be testosterone levels are something people have lots of questions with, and from hearing my origin story, if you haven't listened to my origin story yet, I talk about low testosterone in my life, how it really messed me up in the 2000, let's see here, what was that, 2012 to 2013, or 2013 or 14, somewhere in there. I can't remember the exact dates. It's all in my origin podcast. But I did suffer with low testosterone, and like a lot of other people, and this podcast, this topic, I've been told to talk about for a while now. And I thought about doing a book on it, but then I was like, you know what? I believe that everybody should have the right to know how to raise their testosterone naturally, even if they can't afford my services, even if they can't afford buying a book. I think everybody should be able to have healthy testosterone levels, and money should not be an issue if you can or cannot. So for me, I decided, you know what? I'm going to put it into a free podcast for you guys. This podcast today could be 2 hours long because I'm going to talk to you today about testosterone, and I'm going to tell you every single thing I have researched and read about testosterone, how I corrected my own low testosterone levels, and how I did it, exactly how I did it. And also, guys, we're going to get into detail today, okay? So we're going to get into a lot of details. This is probably a not safe for work podcast, unless you're listening just, privately. I would not be playing this podcast personally, though, out loud in your office. Listen to this one silently by yourself, because I'm going to go into depth with this. A lot of the things we talk about today are going to be sort of, what a lot of people find embarrassing. But for me, I have never found these topics embarrassing to talk about. I find them fascinating because it's the human body. The human body is a natural thing. There's nothing embarrassing about the human body. God designed us all for a reason, and he designed us all very fascinating too. So nothing is embarrassing about the human body. Let me start out by saying that. But with that said, if you work in an office, I probably would not play this podcast out loud. Another thing, this episode is generally going to be geared toward the men. But women, you can definitely benefit from this podcast too. Your boyfriend may be able to benefit, or your husband may be able to benefit. And also, testosterone is important for women too, to a small degree. Obviously not as important as it is for men, but it is a very important thing for women as well. So to start out today, I'm just going to start talking to you about my origin story a little bit. I know if you've heard my origin story, you know this already, but for the people that have just come and found me from this episode, I need you to know how I know so much about low T and how to correct it, because it always comes from an anecdotal evidence. If you're not doing research on something, you should never believe somebody that just talks about something without somebody having prior experience. So back in 2000, now the dates on this I can't quite remember, because let's face it, it's been like 11 years ago. But 2011, I believe it was, or 2012, somewhere in there, when I got back from college, I was diagnosed with low testosterone. Low testosterone being around 220, which is very low for a man in his low 20s. I would have been 22 at that age, and usually when you're 22, your testosterone is usually at its highest. Your testosterone peaks in your late teens, and it peaks around 25, 24, somewhere around there, and then kind of declines. What the research has shown, it declines usually after 30. So knowing that, I knew I was not healthy, and this was for a multitude of reasons. In college, most people gain weight in college. Well, I did the exact opposite. I entered a contest to be in this infomercial for a Beachbody program called Asylum. and they were looking for extreme transformations from this program. And I had a goal to be in this infomercial. So I said I was going to do whatever it freaking took to get in this infomercial. Now, at the time, I did not know how much of my health I was going to have to sacrifice for that. I decided to cut my calories drastically, train harder than I've ever trained in my life. Donate basically all my free time to training and trying to get it in just ridiculous shape. And at the end of this, contest thing, I was down to body fat levels under 5%. They were actually closer to 3%. It was ridiculous. I was crazy lean. I mean, literally, you could see every shred of muscle, of bone in my body because of how lean I was. And I thought I was healthy. And, I did get in the infomercial. I did reach my goal. I did get my results put in the infomercial, which was really cool. But was it worth what I did to my body at that age when I should have been really peaking at my testosterone level? No, it is definitely not worth it. I would go back and change that in a heartbeat if I could. I would go back and take away all that cardio, up my calories greatly, and I would just stay weight training, because if I would have done that, I never would have driven my testosterone to super low levels. But I think God had me do that for a reason, because nowadays people suffer with testosterone, low testosterone. And there's a lot of people out there that use products as scams and everything, and say you have to do it like this, or you have to go to a doctor and you have to have them be put, and you have to be put on TRT and all this. And I think God wanted me to have a way to preach and teach the other people out there that have suffered or are suffering from low testosterone that it's not the end of the world for you, that you can cure yourself naturally, right? Naturally. You can do this naturally, contrary to popular belief. So many people will say if you're diagnosed with low testosterone, you've got to get on TRT and all this stuff, and you don't. And that's one of the reasons I think God had me go through that terrible time in my life, because me correcting myself naturally was something that was later going to benefit so many people. And I hope this podcast reaches as many people, because my testosterone, like I said, it was down to 220 when I had it checked, and they wanted to put me on TRT. They wanted to do all kinds of tests. And I said, you know what? This is my body. This is not it's God's body, but I'm the owner of this body while on this earth. And I thought, it's my choice. Do I want to be on TRT, or do I want to go research and figure and see if I really do want to be on TRT? Because I knew nothing about low testosterone back then. I knew what testosterone was, but I didn't know, what low testosterone really consisted of. So I was like, you know what? I don't know enough about this to just listen to a doctor. I told the doctor, I'm going to do some research and I'll call you back. So I left the doctor's office, and I spent the next 2 weeks reading and reading and reading and reading. And actually, not just that, but I probably went more than 2 weeks reading. But it was around the third week after that, I decided to call my doctor back and said, listen, I appreciate you. I thank you for telling me what's up, but I'm going to try to do this on my own. In 9 months, I'll come back and get myself tested. And if my levels are not normal, then we'll talk about TRT. And my doctor was like, okay, that's up to you. And he tried to talk me out of it. He tried to tell me why, if I didn't get on TRT, I could be at more risk of a heart attack and all this. And I was like, you know what? Listen, I'm going to do this myself, because I'm an adult and I can choose to do things myself. So I hung up the phone and said, all right, we're going to go into this mode of maximizing my life to build my testosterone back. And today we're going to talk about everything I went in to raise my testosterone from. I'm going to give you a little sneak bit to this, but my testosterone in 9 months, I took it from 220 to 530. It's an increase of over 100%, and I did it naturally. So we're going to get to that today. I just wanted to let you know that those were my numbers 9 months later. 540 or 530, was it? 530, 540. Let's see here. It's 220 to 530, increase of 140% in 9 months, all naturally. I didn't do anything unnatural in those 9 months. I did this all naturally. And my doctor, when I went back and got tested, he was amazed. He had me write up like exactly what I did, what things I took. And I don't know if he was going to use it for future patients or what, but he took down all my notes, and that's about it. Yeah, I hope he's not taking credit for things that I came up with, but he was amazed. Because my doctor, my family doctor, is a doctor literally that, he prescribes things without telling you about them. He's just one of those doctors that just tells you and doesn't explain anything. He doesn't really care if you understand things, and that's one of the reasons I really dislike my family doctor. That's a discussion for another topic, but he really was flabbergasted at my results, how I was able to bring my testosterone in only 9 months naturally to 140%. He actually accused me. He actually said, if you went on TRT at another doctor's, he wanted me to tell him that. And I told him I did not. I didn't go on TRT. Everything is natural. And I had to write this testimonial out. It was ridiculous. And I had to sign a patient confidentiality agreement and everything. And it was crazy. My doctor, though, was just blown away by these results. He's never seen anything like that increase in that amount of time and naturally. So I knew that I had done something pretty crazy. So to that day, I have helped people raise their testosterone naturally because I have done it myself. I have taken myself from super low T levels, 220, and maybe a little under that too, because they're rounded up numbers usually, to a really healthy number of around 530. So with that, you can hear now the whole origin story if you go back and listen to my origin story where I talk about everything in detail. But with that said, we're going to go right into this podcast today and get this right started because this is going to be a longer podcast, I can tell you right now. So, testosterone levels. So, we know that the problem is low testosterone. Now, when I have a problem, whenever I'm faced with a problem in life, I revert to a technique that I learned back in psychology. And that technique was using the 5 W's to figure out what the problem is. The 5 W's, they're also used in solving crime scenes. And they are the who, what, when, where, why, and sometimes occasionally how, but in this case the why is the how. It's the same thing, so I didn't write the how in this. But those 5 W's can be used, like I've talked about in some other podcast. I think I brought that up anyway, how those 5 W's I always put in whenever I'm trying to solve a problem. So with low testosterone, the 5 W's are who, what, when, where, and why. So we have who, this addresses men mainly, what, low testosterone levels, when, the 21st century, because testosterone levels, like we're going to get to here in a second, have rapidly decreased. We'll get to that here in just a second. The where is the current time period we are in, the constant decline, and then the why is it's the way we have been living. It's also because masculinity is declining rapidly. Men are not men anymore. I'm just going to say that. And men are demonized nowadays in culture. What's that word? Toxic masculinity. That word needs to be deleted from the freaking earth. There is nothing toxic about masculinity. Nothing at all. God designed men to be men. And the reason why testosterone is falling so rapidly, like we're going to talk about here, is just it's because men are not allowed to be men anymore. And it's killing men. Right now, I looked up some graphs the other day while I was writing out the outline to this podcast and doing some research, and the graphs I found were so grim. Listen to this data. Listen to this. So the U.S. average testosterone levels in men have been declining roughly 50 points every 5 years. While that does not sound like a lot, that's a shit ton. Think about this. 450 was the average in 2015. That was the average level of testosterone in 2015, meaning that the average now is around 400 and it's dropping. Think what this means, meaning that in 2025 to 2030, we could be looking at an average testosterone level of 250 to 300. That's insane. I was diagnosed at 220 for low testosterone. If the charts keep up this pattern, if men continue to not be men, we're looking at a 2032 men will be at an average of around 200 testosterone. That is nuts. There is no reason ever that men should have that low testosterone as an average level. Now, this is America's average. I don't know what the average is around the world. It's probably a lot higher. The more you go, let's see here, more Western culture. Let's see here. China and Japan, I think they probably have a lot higher testosterone levels just because of their lifestyles. Their food that they eat is a lot more whole and natural. They also get a lot more sun over there. If I had to guess, their testosterone is probably a lot more healthier over in those areas than it is in America, where most people work in office jobs. Most people don't get nearly the amount of sun they should. There's a ton of things in our lifestyle that we're going to talk about today that have been to this decrease. But these numbers, they are just nuts. 220, it looks like, will be the average by 2032, which seems like it's a long ways off, but it's not. That's in less than 12 years. That's in less than 12 years that the average American male will have a testosterone level of around 220. And let me tell you right now, when I was at 220, I felt like I was going to die every single day, but I had no idea it was because of testosterone. I felt so tired, so worn down, so messed up. No sex drive, no libido. I couldn't get erections. All this stuff was because of low testosterone. If men cannot have a natural testosterone level of around 400 to 500 in that age, how are we ever going to procreate? How are we going to reproduce? Men can't have kids with super low testosterone levels. Their sperm isn't healthy enough. If your testosterone is under 300, you're at risk for being infertile at that level. And at this rate, talking about testosterone, men in average may not even be able to have kids after 2030. Now, I'm not much for, wanting to talk about the end of the world type of deal, but if men can't produce and testosterone is declining this rapidly, doesn't this kind of signify the end of the world? If men cannot produce, we can't produce as a population. Humanity is screwed at that point. That's why this is such a major problem. That's why this is so important to correct. And it's not about correcting it the false way, about getting on drugs and getting on steroids and getting on TRT. No, it's not. God never intended us to use these false methods to increase something that God gave us naturally. And that's why it pissed me off so much when the doctor, all he wanted to do was put me on TRT. He didn't want to ask things of my lifestyle. He didn't want to address anything of that. He just wanted to take me right and put me on TRT. And it pissed me off so freaking much because I knew, and God told me too then, don't go back to that doctor. I'll help you out. I will give you the tools and techniques you need to raise your testosterone, but I want you to do this, and I want you to document this so you can help so many of the people that this is constantly happening to, because this is an ongoing problem. I prayed about this, and God answered me. He answered me so many times on why this is such a big problem, and this needs to be talked about. And I've wanted to make a podcast or a video on this topic for a long time in my life. Over 6 years now I've wanted to talk about this, but I've never known how to go about it. And then this week, I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to discuss it this week. This is a topic that just needs to be talked about because it's just crazy. It's the way we have been living. It's the way that masculinity is declining nowadays that is literally just, it's such a bad thing. And I don't think you understand how bad it is until you think about it as a humanity standpoint. If humanity can't procreate, if men can't procreate, how are we going to go on as a civilization? How are we going to go on as a species? So we know low testosterone is a big problem. We know it's a problem that is bad for humanity itself. We know that it's a problem just for men and men in general. We know it's bad for our mental standpoint, bad for our sexual standpoint, bad for just how men are supposed to be men. So how is testosterone made in the body? Let's talk about that first. Because when finding out problems to a problem, when you have a problem, you have to know about how that problem was consistent or how that problem is never there in the first place. You have a problem with your car, you have to learn about how the problem works first to diagnose the problem that you're having. So how is testosterone made in the body? Well, testosterone is produced by the gonads or the testicles in men and ovaries in women to a small degree. So all those small qualities are also produced in the adrenal glands in both sexes. So your adrenal glands in your brain, your pituitary gland, that's part of your adrenal system. So you have testosterone, some of it is produced there too, in your adrenals. It's an androgen, meaning that it stimulates the development of male characteristics. Androgens are stuff you don't want to mess with, and that's why I'm so against steroid use. Whenever you're messing with the hormonals in the body, you are messing with your androgens. Androgens are literally your God-given programming to be a man. And when you mess with that, you are messing with things God never intended to be messed with. Testosterone is essential for the production of sperm in adult life. When you have a higher sperm count and your sperm are healthy, you naturally have higher testosterone. That's usually something that correlates very well when getting tested for healthy sperm and whatnot. This hormone also signals, or testosterone also signals the body to make new blood cells, ensuring that muscles and bones stay strong during and after puberty, and enhances libido, both in men and women. Testosterone is linked to many of the changes seen in boys during puberty, including increases in height, body, pubic hair growth, enlargement of the penis, testes, prostate gland, and changes in sexual and aggressive behavior. I mean, it's just that. It's the man gene. It's the man hormone that just makes us men. Testosterone is higher in the morning. Think about that, and decreases as the day goes on. Now, when you think about this as like a standpoint into humanity, yes, this is true, and it makes sense. Testosterone is higher. Think about, for us guys, we can relate. We know morning wood. We know what that is, morning wood. That obviously means your testosterone is higher in the morning. But here's what's interesting, though. What I found in my research through this time period is my training and my intensity for training was so much better in the evening, which is weird because you would think, as if your testosterone is higher in the morning, it goes down during the day, So why would I be able to train better at night? And so many of my clients too. I've actually taken several of my clients through this higher testosterone building program, and they've also had the same results too. They found that they had so much more energy, so much more strength at evening workouts than morning workouts. For me, I am like 25 to 30% weaker in the morning if I lift in the morning than I do at night around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock is usually my prime time to train. I usually get to the gym around 4:30, warm up, and start building up in my working sets. And I'm usually at my working sets usually by 5 o'clock. And that's usually when my freaking strength feels the best. And for a lot of people I train too, and even people I train with at the gym too, I notice they love training at night because they have so much more energy and strength. So it's kind of interesting why, testosterone is higher in the morning, and you'd think you'd be stronger in the morning. And I think it too also has to do with nutrition, If you wake up and you don't eat and you go train, you're going to be just weaker because your glycogen stores are lower, you don't have as much fuel. And if you train later at night, you have all that fuel that you took in through the day to help you get through your workout. You have all that fuel from food, carbohydrates, all the salts you've taken in, all the water, hydration, your muscles feel more hydrated. I think that equates to a better workout than testosterone itself when we're talking about overall performance. I don't think testosterone is necessarily linked to direct performance in a weight training session in the grand scheme of things. I think it can make a difference. Like if you have above or below normal T levels, I think you will definitely notice a decrease in strength and muscle building. That's a given. You will definitely notice that. But with that said, I do think when it comes to overall performance, if you have pretty good natural T levels already, one can make the best out of the training at night because of the fact you can get more food in, more water, more salt. You can sleep longer in the morning if you don't wake up to train in the morning. So you're naturally getting more sleep. I think this can altogether be just a better way to go about it. So even though testosterone is higher in the morning, that does not mean I recommend training in the morning. I actually recommend the complete opposite of that. So that brings us to our next question. What is low testosterone? So low testosterone, like I said, testosterone goes in ranges. It's a number. Now, if you get tested for low testosterone, for one, if you want to get tested to see your testosterone levels, you have to ask your doctor for a full blood panel, because a normal blood panel that they do most blood tests in does not show your testosterone level. This is weird. I know that. But this is something that I made a mistake before when I first got tested or wanted to get my testing done, because I didn't ask for a full panel. And all they did was cholesterol and the normal numbers. And I asked what my testosterone was, and I had to go back in for another test because I didn't ask for a full blood panel. Another bad thing is the full blood panel is not usually covered by insurance. So a lot of times you have to pay out of pocket to get your full blood panel, which I had to do, which was just stupid. I mean, they should cover a full blood panel, especially in the case if you think you have low testosterone. That should be covered by your insurance. But nonetheless, though, if you are asked to pay in person, I'm just warning you that you may be asked to pay up front for a full blood panel. But a full blood panel will give you all your freaking numbers. Every number that's you can find in your body for everything will be in a full blood panel. It's expensive, but it's worth it if you're not sure about your numbers. So in a normal range, it says on the normal range anywhere from 270 to 1070 is normal range. Now, I totally disagree with this. I think if you have 270, that's low testosterone. I think you want your numbers between 350 to 1000, maybe even 400 to 1000. I think still under 300 to 350, you're going to still feel effects from low testosterone. From what I've seen in the research, from what I researched myself, and from what I've gone through, and from what some of the clients that have gone through too, they noticed they didn't start feeling normal till about around a 400 testosterone level. Now, this did depend on the age, but it was mostly right around that 400 level that people started to feel naturally like men again. So for the normal ranges that they tell you, that doctors tell you, it goes from 270 to 1070. Now, I've met very few people that have an over 1000, but my guess is if you have over 1000, you have one of the best lives ever. You feel on top of the world. You feel so motivated to do everything. You're super strong. You don't get tired easily. You don't need a lot of sleep to function. You can have an erection super crazy hard. Please any woman that you're with. I mean, literally, your life is probably near perfect if you have 1000 testosterone level. But here's the thing, though. Not very many people have that high testosterone. It's a God-given gift, a personal given gift if you have a testosterone over 1000. And I'm talking natural, not using steroids and whatnot. But if you have that, though, be very thankful and thank God every day, because that 1000 level testosterone level is something that all men wish we could have. But very few men do, though. So what causes low testosterone? So let me say this. First thing is you have to understand as many things can correlate to low testosterone. And I'm going to try to go over most of them that I can today, but know that there's a lot more things to your life that can cause low testosterone. The number one thing that I want to address first is not getting enough sleep. This is something that literally, I'm sure, drove my testosterone levels super low because I did not understand the importance of sleep. I was getting about 4 hours a night of sleep. I was going to bed at around 11:30 because I'm a night owl, and I had to be at work at 8:30 in the morning. But I also was a big fan of working out in the morning. So I would wake up around 4:30 or 5 o'clock to train. So I was getting about 4.5 hours of sleep. If you are only getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep, you are cutting your T levels greatly. The research showed if you're only getting 6 hours of sleep, you actually are cutting your testosterone over time by about 75%. 75%! That's a huge freaking number. 75% is contributed to sleep alone over time. Once you correct the sleep, you're increasing your testosterone about 75% with just that. It's really amazing, the benefits of sleep, and it's why I talk so much about sleep, because it's so beneficial to a person's health, and testosterone especially. Not eating enough calories. Okay, so most people, when they're suffering from low T, they're just not eating enough calories. They're in a deficit. They're using more calories, and their body they're expending more calories than they're taking in. So their body's constantly always in a deficit. When your body's in a deficit, what happens? It starts to think, oh, I'm dying, I'm starving, I'm not getting enough food. I'm going to naturally cut off my resources to reproduction because that's not a needed thing right now. More importantly, I need to survive. So let's turn down the testosterone level production and produce more into just getting our energy back. You see, the body is always trying to survive. So if you're not eating enough calories, you're telling your body that you're going into a fasting station, a fasting of, a long time when the body doesn't know if it's going to get enough food. It says, let's shut off the reproductive organs for a while because we don't need those right now. We don't need to have constant erections every couple hours. We don't need to impregnate a girl to to repopulate the planet. No, we're more worried about being alive at this point because our person is not feeding us enough calories. Okay? So you have to always think about this as a body standpoint, what the body is actually thinking. And when you're not eating enough calories, it's going to shut off other things. People that go into contest preps, I've had clients, that go through low testosterone when they're trying to get super lean for stage. And that's true. Anytime you're getting super lean for stage and you're a natural competitor for bodybuilding, I don't take on people that use steroids, but if you use steroids, you usually don't have this problem. But if you're a natural competitor, I deal with a lot of them, their testosterone drops when they're getting closer in prep to their show. And it's because they're just, eating lower food. Their body's not concerned with having a high sex drive at that time. Their body's not concerned with producing monstrous amounts of testosterone. Their body's more concerned about maximizing the energy they have with the amount of calories they're taking in. So anytime you would try to get leaner or you stop eating enough calories, your testosterone gets lower. Not getting enough fats in your diet. So this is something I've talked about. I always recommend at least 0.35 grams per pound of body weight of your calories and fats. So for example, if you weigh 180 pounds, you multiply 180 times 0.35, and that number you get, that's how many grams of fat you should eat a day at least. I personally have all my clients going around 0.45 though, 0.4 to 0.45. And some people like more fats and they go up to 0.5. Usually when I'm not tracking calories like I am right now and I'm just eating by feel, I'm around actually 0.5. So my fats get really pretty high when I'm not tracking and when I really don't care about being crazy lean or whatnot. And when I'm trying to grow in the winter and whatnot, I try to keep my fats around that 0.5 level just to maximize the amount of testosterone I get, maximize the natural amount of testosterone I can get from the fats in my diet. Another thing is cholesterol. So something that I'm going to try to talk about here is cholesterol real quick, is cholesterol binds with testosterone. People think cholesterol is a bad thing. One of the reasons I think that men have lowered their testosterone constantly as they age is they get told by the doctor their cholesterol is too high. You ever hear that? Your cholesterol is too high? So then you go on a super low cholesterol diet. Well, what's low in cholesterol? You stop eating, you stop eating fats, you go on more carbs and more fibers, and what happens? Your testosterone goes low, but your cholesterol also goes lower. And you think, oh, I'm healthier. No, I would rather have you see you have high cholesterol, because with high cholesterol, you have high testosterone. And when you have high testosterone, you feel like a superhero, a superhuman being. When you have lower cholesterol, you feel like more crap. It's true. I've always had higher cholesterol. My whole family has. And all my family, my dad including, my dad has a good testosterone level. His cholesterol too is terrible. my cholesterol level too is pretty bad. But it's the HDL is what you got to pay attention to. The HDL is the high number. It's the good high number. When your LDL gets higher than your HDL, that's when you have problems. But when your HDL is higher, you shouldn't be concerned about that. In my range, my dad's range, our HDLs are pretty damn high, but they're higher than our LDLs, and we both have really healthy testosterone levels. So you have to remember that cholesterol binds with testosterone. That's why I'm going to recommend here later on in this podcast, when we go through what I recommend to do to cure testosterone, one of the things I have on there is eat tons of whole eggs, because whole eggs are high in cholesterol. And when you have higher cholesterol, it bonds with more testosterone, and it equates and correlates to usually more higher testosterone levels in the body. So the next thing is not getting enough sun. Good old vitamin D3. And this is literally another reason, along with cholesterol, why humans have, or males in general, have lowered their testosterone over time, because most people, the majority of people, are working inside during the day, not getting enough sun, and just not getting enough sun in general. We live in a day and age where our lives can all be played out on our phones. What do I mean by that? I mean, literally, you can do everything you need to do in your day to make money on your phone or on a computer using something digital. And when you're on digital things, your life revolves around digital things, video games or anything for that matter. I mean, I play a lot of video games. I've got nothing against video games. I'm a big gamer myself. But this lifestyle, being a gamer, being an indoors person, being a person who works at a corporate office, if that's you, this all has correlated to the lower testosterone levels in men as we age. Men were never intended to sit at computers and desks for 8 hours a day behind screens. Men were not created to do that. I guarantee you God never intended for men to do that. He knew it was going to happen because God's all-knowing, but he never intended for this to happen. God intended men to be what men have always been from the history, and that is the warrior. The warrior in a relationship, the warrior, the food bringer, the hunter, the gatherer. Men were supposed to be out in the fields, hunting, just being warriors. And that is not taking place nowadays. So what has happened over time is our bodies, they start to think, oh, well, we don't need these warrior aspects that God gave us anymore. So let's give those up and we'll translate it to more obesity and more just, sedentary things. We can we can raise our resting heart rate and do all this so we can sit at a computer all day. And that's not good. When your body thinks, oh, it doesn't need this warrior mentality anymore, what happens is your body just tells it and reprograms itself from what God originally programmed it for, and your body adapts. God was a genius when he created us because he made us so adaptable. If you are a person that just lived off hunting and fishing and outside all the time, that's how I grew up. When I was a kid, we were outside all the time. Me and my neighbor friend, we were always roaming the ditches, running, climbing trees, doing all this stuff outside, and we were always in shape. We never had to worry about anything we ate, and our bodies adapted. Okay. And then later on, the 2000s came and we started to play more video games, less active, and our bodies also adapted. So the body is very adaptive. It's going to adapt what it needs to do. And the fact is, if your body starts to realize it's not getting enough sun, it's not going outside enough, it's not using those warrior genetic materials that God gave it to be a man, well, then it's going to start to decrease that, because if you don't use it, you lose it. I'm telling you, live by that, because if you don't use it, you lose it in all aspects of your life. And yes, we will get into recommendations later on in this podcast about sun and how to incorporate that more into your life, even for somebody who works, in a corporate office or indoors for most part. Next one is too much endurance training or cardio. And this I've talked about before. I think I mentioned it last week in last week's podcast, how they actually did a research study on sedentary people and people that do high endurance training. And the people that were sedentary actually had higher testosterone levels than the people who did endurance training. And, it's interesting because you always hear being active is always more healthy, but maybe men were truly not supposed to constantly be on the move. I mean, if you think about this in a standpoint of evolution, when we had to hunt and gather and we had to chase down things, what would happen was, the men would go out hunting. They would, maybe have to sprint or whatnot. They would have to use a short burst of energy, and they were always about maximizing the most amount of energy as possible because they didn't know when their next meal was going to come around. They maybe didn't even get anything to hunt that day. Maybe it took them, 3 days to get a meal. So they were not going to just run endlessly to go, to get food because they didn't know if they were going to even be able to get food in the first place. So it's interesting because we were naturally programmed to be sprinters. We were naturally programmed to give effort real quick and then rest and recover. And think about that, because they would hunt, they would maybe have to sprint, kill their target, but then they'd, be able to rest, eat a ton of food, and then they'd fast, which we will talk about today here in a bit, fasting. And then they would have to, they wouldn't know when their next meal would come, and chances are they wouldn't just go on a run to waste calories through the day. Chances are they would use that extra energy to maybe, gather materials for where they were creating their house, their shelter. They maybe were gathering water, but they weren't doing that running around constantly. They were trying to use as much energy as possible. Something I've learned, a survivalist and whatnot, basic keys of survival is always using the least amount of energy to get things done, because you never know when your next calories are going to come in. So always maximizing energy is a very important thing. Now, why do I bring this up in a day and age where we can go to the fridge anytime we want and go get a meal? The reason I say this is because our bodies are still naturally designed to act like they were back then. Yes, they're adaptable, but they're still literally programmed to the way that God intended us to be, which was to be sprinters, to be, we act fast, we get our meat, we hunt down our meat, and then we cook a meal and we feast, and then we fast. And when men constantly just, waste energy on endurance training, I think that tells the body that it doesn't need to preserve extra energy because it has enough coming in. And also at the same point, I think it's just not designed for men. I don't think men are literally designed for endurance. Obviously, I don't know the answers to this, but the research that I read on the endurance people that did endurance athletes, endurance people who did marathons and whatnot, that their testosterone was lower than sedentary people. There's something to say about that, and anecdotal evidence on that is pretty grim to the fact where you should avoid most endurance training for the most part. And plus, in my experience too, like I talked about in my origin story, the program that I got in that infomercial for was a very high endurance program. High endurance, lots of cardio, and not much weightlifting. And while I got shredded, like I said, my testosterone went down significantly through that. So, there may be some correlation there between endurance training and lower testosterone. That's why I would personally recommend not doing as endurance if you can avoid it. If you just like doing long runs and stuff, I guess, do what you got to do to make yourself feel happy. But in my opinion, making yourself or creating a body with the highest testosterone levels possible will correlate to being the best life as possible as well. Due to the things I said previously today. So too much training in general and not enough recovery is the next one I have on my list. This is just basic right here. Too much training in general and not enough recovery is never a good thing. When you are constantly pushing yourself, not giving yourself enough recovery, not giving yourself enough food, we talked about this already. What does the body think is happening? What does the body think is happening? I'm asking you this because remember, I already talked about this. The body always wants to try to preserve its life. And if you're constantly training and not recovering, the body is going to look at your sexual organs and testosterone as being not needed. So it will not donate energy or resources to raise your testosterone, and it will not donate resources to produce more sperm. The reason being is because it's looking at it's looking at itself as like, all this person is wanting me to do is exercise and train, so I need to reserve energy to that. So remember, the body is always going to try to adapt to what you're doing to live. It's always going to want to live. At the end of the day, the body's main thing it's trying to do is live and survive. And it will take away resources that it doesn't need for other things if you're just focusing only on training and training super hard and not enough recovery. The next one is injury to the testicles. If you were younger and you ever got kicked in the nuts, this is pretty self-explanatory. Any injury to the testicles might hamper the ability to produce adequate testosterone later on in your years. This is something you should just be checked out by a doctor if you ever were injured real badly in like a sport or something. That might be something to tell your doctor and maybe get tested and make sure everything down there is still functioning right after an injury had happened. Next one is having too much iron in the body. This has just been shown in many research that too much iron in the body is a bad thing no matter what. That's why most multivitamins have taken iron out, because too much iron can be problematic because, iron is stored in the body. It's not just peed out or whatnot. It's not a water-soluble mineral by any means. So it's something just to be wary of. And most people don't have to worry about this. It's just pay attention and make sure you're just not getting ridiculous amounts of iron. Make sure your multivitamin that you're taking doesn't include iron too. I never recommend people take iron in form of supplement unless directed to by a doctor or said otherwise. The next one is pituitary gland tumor. This has been shown in research over and over. So your pituitary gland, I think I talked about this earlier already, but the pituitary gland is responsible for helping your body produce testosterone. It's attached to your adrenal glands. It's in your brain, and your pituitary gland, helps helps your body produce more testosterone, helps it keep adequate levels of testosterone. But if you have a tumor, that will definitely impact that. This is something that if you think you might have a tumor, usually the symptoms of this are pretty severe. You'll know basically. You constantly have headaches. There's some other symptoms too. You can just look that up online for symptoms of pituitary gland tumors. If you're at question, you might as well get checked out by a doctor and have some type of brain scan done just to be sure. Alcohol abuse is another big one on this list I have, because alcohol is something that definitely lowers your testosterone in abundance. So if you're taking, a beer a day, a couple beers a day isn't going to hurt you. I finish every day with a glass of whiskey. It's just something I like chilling at night. I like a glass of whiskey, and that's not going to kill you. What I'm talking about here is abundance of alcohol, meaning being like an alcoholic almost, drinking a ton of alcohol. In my younger years, when I was in high school, I was a big time drinker. I drank a lot back then, and maybe that's also why my testosterone was affected when I was younger too, because I could literally drink people under the table at that time. Nowadays, you could drink me under the table easily because I don't drink very often. Like I said, I drink a glass of whiskey every other day or maybe every night. When I feel it. I have a beer maybe every couple days. It depends, but this is something that if you drink a lot of alcohol, it has been shown alcohol in abundance can definitely lower testosterone. What's that term? Let's see here. The term whiskey dick, the term of when you have too much alcohol, and you can't perform for a woman. That's a real thing. And people will say, it's because your penis is not getting enough blood flow or whatnot. It's more than that. I think literally too much alcohol, is definitely bad on the testosterone level. So that's just self-explanatory. Don't go crazy with alcohol. Be smart with alcohol, but also enjoy your life, to have some alcohol. It's not going to kill you. Just don't go crazy with it. Obesity or extreme weight loss. So it's interesting because on one side of the spectrum, I'm talking about obesity, and the other side is extreme weight loss. The ideal goal is to be somewhere in the middle of that, to maximize your testosterone. You don't want to be crazy overweight, because being crazy overweight, your insulin sensitivity is very low, which is bad on testosterone levels, which we'll talk about here. And also, being obese, you can't be very active, which, you need to be somewhat active to promote testosterone growth, to testosterone, in your body. But also on the very other edge of that, is extreme weight loss. Anytime you go through extreme weight loss, like if you're trying to lean down for a competition or maybe get crazy lean for a photo shoot. I did some modeling in college, so this is something I can attend to. But if anytime you're trying to achieve extreme weight loss in a very quick time period, you're gonna have pretty big drops in testosterone. I've read various studies, research shown, if you lose weight too quick, like say in a couple weeks, you lose just a ridiculous amount. Or maybe a month, you lose just something crazy, like 30 to 50 pounds in a month or something like that. Your testosterone can actually drop over 25% in that amount of time. It's pretty crazy. So basically, in other words, don't do crazy things to the body. Like I've talked about so many times, don't get crazy fat and don't get crazy lean. And especially don't do those extremely quick in very little time. Anytime you rush something or put something into making something happen really quick, that's not a good thing. Gradual things are always the best. Being patient with things, being patient with progress is probably the best way to go about things if you're trying to lose weight, or if you're even trying to gain weight for that matter. Don't get just extremely crazy on your calories and throw a bunch of calories in and get ridiculously fat, because like I said, that's going to also lower your testosterone by multiple factors, but one big one, though, is lowering insulin sensitivity. The next one I have on my list here is aging. So over 30. Now, like I said, this is interesting because aging never used to be a problem. Remember, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, in 1987, T levels stayed elevated all the way to 70 years old before they started declining. 1987, okay? I was born in 1991, so not too far off of that. And that at that time, T levels were staying elevated to 70 years old. Why is that? Why is it that now it's been shown over and over that after you turn 30, your T levels naturally go down? It's all about our lifestyle, like I talked about it so much already. It was so different back in 1980 and whatnot. There weren't as many office jobs. You were forced to go out, there was no video games and technology was lower. You spent most of your time outside. Like I said, when I was growing up in the early 90s, that we spent our time outside playing. We climbed trees. We were in the sunlight all day. And we never worried about what we ate. We always ate just whatever we wanted to. I mean, we wanted ice cream. We wanted nachos at night. We just devoured them. We didn't care about that. We didn't care about calories because we knew that, we weren't even considered about calories back then because we naturally went outside all the time and we were always doing stuff outside. Well, then the 2000s came, and that's when technology started to go crazy and everything started to, get digital. But then by 2005, 2006, we had crazy new lifestyles of living digital lives, and that keeps continuing to grow. And it just makes sense. As we become more digital and more reliant on technology, we rely less on the manly things that we were supposed to do to get through life. So what happens as that happens is it's the very reason why in 2030 the average testosterone level will probably be 250, because men are just not being men anymore. It's as easy as that. There's no need. People go through life thinking, oh, there's no need for me to be crazy fit and athletic because I can just, order DoorDash to come to my door to bring me food. I don't have to go hunting for it. Or the mentality of I don't have to get fit and in shape because, for one, it seems to be girls aren't even attracted to fit and in shape people. I mean, the mentality nowadays is girls are attracted to dad bods. So that a lot of men think, oh, I don't even need to work out then because girls are attracted to dad bods. So therefore, you're not even going to the gym. To some people, not even going to the gym, not even lifting. And this all correlates to depending more on technology, more on being lazy in general. And laziness will always lower testosterone over time because the man was designed to be a go-getter, a driver. And over time, the man has just depleted all of that and is going to nothingness. And by 2030, like I said, according to the graphs that I've looked at, dangerously low testosterone levels will be by 2030 to 2035. And by 2040, we could be extinct. It's pretty crazy to think that we could be extinct from low testosterone levels by 2040. But according to the graphs, according to the research that has been coming out, it could be possible. So the aging over 30, normal T starts to decline. This does not have to be. We just need to get more sun. We need to get in the gym for at least an hour a day, 5 days a week at least, 4 to 5 days, maybe not even 5 days, 4 to 5 days a week. And just try to live more like men were supposed to live. I'm not saying you have to go out and hunt for your food or things like that. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying we need to figure out something because there's some problem with this that's happening that is obviously shown in research that we need to solve. Otherwise, like I said, we could be extinct and not even be able to procreate by 2040. The next one is estrogen excess. So when testosterone goes low, estrogen usually goes up. This is just a correlation to that. And when estrogen goes up and testosterone goes low, what happens? You become more feminine. Exactly the opposite that we want, but is what is exactly happening as the graphs have shown. It's crazy. Estrogen has been going up in males as testosterone has been going down. Now, why is this? Like I've talked about already, time. It's the time period we're in. It's the food that we eat. Most men that I talk to are just, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I have to talk about this because so many men, will ask me, what I eat and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I eat a ton of steak, ton of eggs. I eat like a farmer, that's just how I go about it. I eat a lot of cholesterol rich foods. And most people that are having, these problems of low testosterone and these higher estrogen, they are eating tons of grains, tons of fibers, fibrous food, tons of vegetables, tons of things that society makes you think is healthy. But why is it the healthiest people are eating things like bacon and meat and fatty meats and high cholesterol rich foods? Those people that are eating the high cholesterol rich foods, they are the ones exercising, getting jacked, maintaining leanness, getting crazy high testosterone. The people that have gone to these low fat diets, these high carb, low fat diets, over time, they are the ones that are losing testosterone. They're the ones that are promoting estrogen and losing testosterone. And it's just a combination of factors, and it's absolutely crazy, and it needs to be addressed. Next one is radiation exposure. If you have ever had any type of x-rays or anything, or intense scans done, there has been research shown that radiation exposure can deplete sperm levels and also can increase risk of infertility, and in turn can also lower testosterone. So that's just something to be aware of. Most people don't have radiation exposure, but if you had a lot of problems medically when you're growing up and you had to get a lot of scans done, this might be something to look into if you are having problems having kids later in your future, or if you're trying to have kids now and you're not able to. This might be something just to ask your doctor about, seeing if you were exposed to too much radiation ever in your life. So that goes over, what causes low T. Now, there are other things that cause low T, but those are the big main ones that I see in society that are the main problems. Well, they're the main problems, and they're also the things that we need to focus on most to fix the problem. So the next thing I want to go into, what are the dangers of low testosterone? Because many of us hear this word low testosterone, and I don't think many people understand how dangerous it is to be at a low testosterone level. So the first big one is an increased risk of heart attack. Now, this was something my doctor told me when I was first diagnosed with a 220 level testosterone. My doctor was very concerned that I was at risk of a heart attack. He was saying how this is very important that we get you on testosterone replacement therapy because you are at risk of a heart attack. And this is true. When you are at a low testosterone level, you are at an increased risk of a heart attack. It's probably one of the most number one reasons to be concerned with low T, because of the problems that come from the risk of a heart attack. Being at risk of a heart attack is obviously something we need to avoid, trying to live a healthy life. So that is the number one danger of low T, in my opinion. The next one is impact in sex life. I mean, this is just self-explanatory. If you have low T, your sex life is probably going to suck. If you can't get hard, can't pleasure women, your sex life is going to be bad, and your relationships are going to suck. Because let's face it, sex is a very important part of a relationship. If the sex life is bad in a relationship, the relationship probably won't last. Intimacy is very important to form bonds and connections with your partner. And if the sex life is bad, the relationship will be bad. Next one is weight increase. The dangers of low T. So weight increase is something that isn't often talked about, but often remember, when testosterone goes lower, estrogen goes up. Now, one of the bad things about estrogen is with too much estrogen, your body puts on weight. Estrogen kind of is a programmer to make you store more fat. And here is I think I have this included later on to talk about too in the podcast, but I want to mention it here in case I forget. But weight increase, if you have low testosterone, one of the signs you have low testosterone is the fact that you put on easy belly fat, lower belly fat for men. That is a sign that your testosterone levels are getting lower because you easily put on lower belly fat. It's no coincidence that when men age, most men put on lower belly fat. Most men, as they age, like we talked about, they lose testosterone. If they follow, the conventional way that the world is going right now, they naturally put on lower belly fat. And that's no coincidence. That is actually low testosterone and increased estrogen. Increased estrogen, that's a way you can check basically to know if you have an increased estrogen. You put on lower belly fat. Right by your belly button, that little flab that a lot of men get later on in life, especially, that is usually due to increase in estrogen and lower testosterone. You'll notice if you can raise your testosterone, you will lose lower belly fat really quick. I noticed for me when I had low testosterone, I also had lower belly fat that would not go away. No matter how lean I got, I always had lower belly fat. And once I got my testosterone levels a lot higher, that lower belly fat just started to just go away. It started to just balance out, and my healthy fat levels were just a more balanced fat all over in my body, healthy fat. But the lower belly fat kind of just went away when my testosterone got higher. It was pretty crazy. Even though my calories were higher than they were before, lower belly fat disappeared, all because of my testosterone balanced out and got back to a normal, or maybe even a little above normal level for that matter. So that's something you can use to kind of gauge if your testosterone is at a healthy amount or if you're getting too much estrogen. Next one is depression. Now, we all know we live in a day and age where depression is at an all-time high. Suicides are at an all-time high. The amount of people that kill themselves daily is crazy. And it's getting worse every year. And actually, 2020 and 2021, the numbers actually have skyrocketed greatly. If you look at the graphs on suicides and depression, they have just astronomically gone up in the past couple years. Now, is this because of all the crazy shit that happened with COVID, making people get locked in their houses, not be able to go out with friends? Yes, I do think that's a big reason why. But in the case of this discussion, depression, when you have lower testosterone levels, you start to feel less like a man. You just, you put on weight easily, your estrogen is higher, you go through more mood swings, you don't feel like a man. You don't put on muscle easy, you can't get hard, you're not having normal erections, your libido's low. All this for a man will cause depression. And it's one of the reasons why men later on in life, they do commit suicide a lot do, because when you reach that point where you can't pleasure women, your libido drops, you have no sex drive, you can't put on muscle, your strength sucks. What is the point of living at that point? You start to really get depressed at that point. And low T, one of the major dangers of low T is depression, because when you start to have all those things happen, you start to think, I don't want to live anymore. And that's something that can be very dangerous with low T. I remember when I had low T, I had a lot of depression, and I ended up quitting a job because I was so depressed, a job that I wasn't happy at, so I'm glad I quit it. But I was depressed, and I didn't know what to do, and it caused a lot of depression. And I know a lot of that depression was from my low testosterone at that time. So it's something very important to remember and something not to overlook. The next one is osteoporosis. Osteoporosis, or getting injured easily, bone weakness. This is something that's very highly correlated with low testosterone. A matter of fact, low T individuals, their bones break very, very easily. This is something so I've never broken a bone in my life, and it's pretty amazing why, even when my testosterone was that low. Maybe I just have harder bone than normal people. I don't know. But this is something that was really crazy when I was reading in the research, how easy people were able to get injured when they had low testosterone. Osteoporosis is really, really dangerous. And it can become very dangerous when having low T. You become very brittle. Think about it. When you become less of a man, you become more brittle. And that also can correlate right to your body, right to your bone structure, and you can get injured a lot more easily. It just kind of makes sense when you think about it. Now, guys, I know I've been talking for already an hour, and for those of you that are still with me, I appreciate it. I think you guys are still going to learn a lot more if you do stick around, because I haven't even gone into how to correct low testosterone yet. But just wanted to let you guys know that I do appreciate you all for listening, and if you do stick around, I think you will greatly benefit from the things I'm going to talk about still today. Okay, we talked about the dangers of low T. Let's talk about how do you know if you have low testosterone, because let's face it, not everybody has health insurance, not everybody can afford a full blood panel, and sometimes you just want to kind of diagnose yourself if you have low testosterone, and that's okay. Now, obviously, if you have some crazy symptoms like I'm going to talk about here, I recommend going and getting checked out, because it could be at a level that needs to be addressed. and that would need to be addressed by your doctor. So just be smart with this. If you have some of these, maybe you should get checked, but also this is a way to go about it in a way maybe not so medically if you can't afford it or whatnot, or if you don't have health insurance. Okay, so the first one is low sex drive. This one's super simple to know. If you never want to have sex, or never horny, never masturbate or anything like that, or never want to do any of those things, that's an easy sign right there that you have low testosterone. And you should probably, think about maybe getting checked out at that point. No morning wood. So if you never wake up hard, and this is just one that you need to be aware of. Men should wake up hard for the most part. It's kind of just testosterone is highest in the morning, and if you have high testosterone levels, you'll be naturally hard almost every morning. This is something just healthy men have happen to them, so it should just be, something to make note of. If you're not hard in the mornings when you wake up, maybe make note that something might be wrong at that point. Next one is erectile dysfunction or softening of an erection. If you've ever been with a woman and you've let's say you're in the middle of intercourse and you automatically just start softening and you can't stay hard till orgasm, this is a sign that maybe you do have lower T levels. Not all erectile dysfunction is correlated with low testosterone, but a lot of it is. Most people that have erectile dysfunction or softening of an erection, for that matter, have some sort of problem with low testosterone. Here's just an interesting fact that I read and wrote down while I was doing research for this podcast. But a healthy man typically gets 15 to 20 erections a day. This is just something that happens naturally, and it's a healthy thing too. It means that your body is putting enough energy and effort into producing testosterone, into producing the sex hormones that are important for a man and important for humanity in itself. So that's just an interesting thing. 15 to 20 erections a day. A depressed mood. So we already talked about this. If you're constantly feeling depressed, and nothing seems to help your depression, this is something you might need to look at, and it might be low T causing your problems. Difficulties with concentrating on things and memory decline. So now, am I saying that if you have tons of problems memorizing stuff that you have low testosterone? Not at all. In fact, I do not have that good of a memory. Maybe that's due to the fact that I do smoke quite a bit of marijuana. I use it to recover from training, and also I used it a lot when I herniated my discs back in 2016, and I use it as a relaxation now. So maybe that has messed with my memory more than it should have. But in general, people's memories should be not terrible. But also at the same time, if you have bad memory or memory loss, that's not directly related to low testosterone. It's just something to be aware of. It's something that in the studies have shown people with low testosterone do have problems with memory decline and also concentrating. If you have like ADHD, trouble concentrating on things, trouble staying focused, maybe that could be low testosterone. More often than not, it's just a sign of boredom from what I've learned in psychology, but it can be occasionally associated with low testosterone levels, according to the research. This is all just according to what I've read and researched. Constant fatigue. This one, I know exactly what I mean when I say constant fatigue, because when I had low testosterone levels, and I think I talked about this in my Origin podcast, I was putting together a TV for one of my rooms. I'd got an extra TV and I was putting it together. And I remember I had to get up and get a screwdriver. And I remember when I got up off the ground, I almost collapsed because I had an instant feeling of a fatigue that I couldn't even describe. And I almost collapsed. And this was right in that time when I was with low testosterone. It was actually a week before I decided to go get checked because I was really getting concerned with my body, what was happening. So that constant fatigue, you're going to know what constant fatigue is if you have this, because this fatigue will make you not want to do anything. If you've ever been in, say, a contest prep or wanting to get super lean, you'll notice as you get leaner, you feel more fatigued. You don't want to do as much things. Well, multiply that by about 50%, and you'll get what you get for what I mean when I'm talking about constant fatigue with low testosterone. With constant fatigue correlated or related to low testosterone, I'm talking about fatigue that makes you not want to do much of anything. It's the feeling of being so lazy that you just don't want to do anything. And that is what I mean by constant fatigue. Being fatigued here and there during the day, that's normal. Everybody gets fatigued. Everybody gets tired. That's just the basic qualities of a human, you know? These bodies get tired. But constant fatigue is waking up in the morning and not feeling like doing anything. Waking up in the morning and you have no energy, no appetite, no drive. That is what I mean by constant fatigue. And that is directly related to low testosterone levels. Moodiness and irritability. This can kind of be related to depression, you know. When you're depressed, you have mood swings. Some days you feel great and happy. Other days you feel really irritable and things can get under your skin really quick. Constant mood swings and irritability, that can show that you have some type of hormonal imbalance. And usually that relates to more estrogen and lower testosterone. This is also a reason, you know, I'm not pointing fingers or judging or anything. I'm just saying, you know, women, they naturally are more moody and they can go through more mood swings than men. And that's because their estrogen is higher. A lot of people don't know that, but women, one of the reasons they are more moody at times and they go through phases where their mood swings just are out of control at times is because their estrogen is, you know, out of control at sometimes. And that can happen to men. If estrogen goes higher and testosterone goes lower, it can cause irritability and moodiness. When testosterone is high, you'll notice in guys that have high testosterone, not very many things piss them off. They're very calm. They're very collective with their thoughts. They think before they act. This is all due to testosterone levels. High testosterone literally is the foundation of a man and the way men should be. The next one is loss of muscle and muscular strength. Talked about this before, but if you have low testosterone, you will not be putting on any muscle and you will be not putting on any strength. You're kind of going to be in a stagnant point and you're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels in the gym and no progress is going to be made. Also, along with that, your appetite will not go up. When you have lower testosterone, this is something I had. You can train all you want, lift all you want, and you just won't be hungry. Your appetite will be low and you won't put on any muscle and strength. It's going to be like you're constantly spinning your wheels. Trying to build muscle without testosterone is trying to build a house without any material. So remember that. Decrease in all over body hair. So when you have lower testosterone, you'll notice that you don't have much, you can't grow a beard, you don't have much hair under your armpits, you're just not very hairy. Men were designed, to grow a beard very easily, grow hair basically all over very easily. It's something that naturally just comes. And if you're not a very hairy person, that might be a reason to get checked out, because men in general, are very hairy creatures. We are very hairy creatures and we put on hair very easily for many different reasons, but testosterone is one of those main reasons why. So the next one is thinning of bones. Bones break easily. Like I talked about, osteoporosis, if you are noticing that you are easily breaking bones, you are easily getting injured, you easily, not bruise, but easily, crack bones and fracture bones and everything like that. This is definitely something you want to get checked out with. Osteoporosis is not always related with low testosterone, but it can definitely be correlated with it though. So it's something to be aware of and definitely be checked out if you can easily break your bones, because your bones are actually very hard to break when you're a healthy human. When you're a healthy human, it takes a lot of pressure to break a bone. That's something you should know. If you're breaking bones easily, something's not right. Increased body fat, especially lower belly fat. I already talked about this. If you are getting lower belly fat, if you are getting an abundance of lower belly fat than anywhere else on the body, if you're in a bulking phase, for example, and you're putting on more belly fat than you are fat other places in your body, this is something to be concerned with, that you might have lower testosterone. Not always, but it can definitely relate back to that. Next one is breast development in males, or known as gynecomastia. Also, people with steroids very easily fall into this category and can easily develop gynecomastia. Also, people just call it gyno for short. If you're noticing breast enlargement or in development, you're probably suffering from low testosterone. This is another big one and big reason why I never recommend steroids, because when you mess with the normal hormonal levels of the human body that God created, bad things will happen. I guarantee it. The next one in this list is infertility or low sperm count. Low sperm count is almost always related to a lower testosterone level. You'll never meet a guy that has high testosterone and a low sperm count. Usually it will never happen. Maybe if you had, some prostate problems or something, it could relate to, more so than low testosterone. Maybe you could at that point have higher testosterone, lower sperm count. But more often than not, if you have a high sperm count, your testosterone is at a healthy amount. If you cannot have kids, if you're trying to have kids at the moment and your doctor is, and you can't, one reason that your doctor may tell you is, your infertility problems are probably coming from low testosterone. It's a possibility. I'm not saying that's the reason why, but it's something to be aware of that you might as well get checked out for. So, all right, let's say you're diagnosed with low testosterone. The normal man will go to a doctor then, and the normal doctor will do this. We'll say, okay, we'll do probably one or try a few of these 4 different things. These are the main 4 things that happen. How to treat low T according to medical professionals. I put medical professionals in quotations there as I said that. Just remember that. The first one is TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. So testosterone replacement therapy is the number one thing that doctors will put a person on that is suffering from low testosterone. Makes sense, right? You're low on testosterone. Why not just inject more testosterone into you? These injections into muscle happen every 10 to 14 days. So every 10 to 14 days, you're going back to the doctor and they're going to inject you with more testosterone. Does this sound like the way God intended you to live? Think about that. Does this sound like God wanted men to go to a doctor every 10 to 14 days and get testosterone, injected right into them? To me, that sounds asinine if you were to say that. No man was ever designed from God to have to go to a doctor to be injected with something that God gave them naturally, okay? The next one is testosterone patches. Now, these testosterone patches are used basically every day, and they're applied at different places around the body. Some doctors will go to those. The next one is testosterone gels. Gels is just a gel that you put on your different places. Different gels require different places. Usually the gels are rubbed around the testicles. That's usually where they're put, but like I said, it can vary on what the doctor has prescribed. This is all just another thing that doctors, try to put patients on. And the third thing is pellets that are implanted under the skin. And this is more of a newer technique that I've read about. There's not much research done on the long-term effects of this yet. So I definitely probably would not recommend the pellets that are implanted under the skin just for the fact of that. But it just doesn't make sense to me. Why add something to the body that God didn't intend for it to be there? Why put these pellets under your skin? So those are the 4 big things that doctors will always relate back to. I guarantee you, if you have low T, the doctor will want to do one of those 4 things. But guess what? All of it is bullshit and not needed. And I'm here to crush any of those doctors that say that you need to be put on those, because my results speak for themselves. 140% increase with my techniques that I'm going to tell you today, I was able to achieve in 9 months. 9 months, I took my testosterone from 220 to 530 in only 9 months. All natural. All natural. And that's what I want to get to today. Because when you mess with God's creation, bad things will happen. And I have that on my list today, and I bolded that because that's something you have to remember. Anytime you modify the human body or the hormonal pathways that God designed everybody with, you are asking for bad things to happen. You do not mess with God's creation. And those 4 things above that doctors prescribe all mess with God's creation and is not natural. I've always said I would rather have low testosterone, if that is what God intended me to have, than be super high testosterone and use high testosterone things that's man created, because I will always side with God every time. I will always side 100% with God and the way God intended man to be. Even if, like I said, God intended me to be with low testosterone, I was going to accept that fact because I believe that God created us a way for a reason. So the side effects of TRT. I want to go into some of this before I jump into how I went about correcting my low testosterone, because you guys need to know for yourself if you want to mess with TRT. This is your decision. This is your choice. If you're diagnosed with low T, it's your choice, just like it was my choice. I decided not to go through with it. But here are some side effects of TRT. So one of the great side effects of TRT is you get crazy strong really quick. The people that get on TRT are usually able to increase their maxes and their lifts by 25 to 50% in a very short amount of time. They get crazy strong, crazy quick. TRT has crazy results when it comes to getting strong really quickly and also building muscle really quickly. People who go on TRT within the first couple months or even a month and a half have been shown to put on monstrous amounts of muscle and lose belly fat. So why would I turn that down? Besides the fact that it's not intended from God, why would I turn that down if that sounded so good? Well, here's some side effects of TRT that the doctors don't tell you about. The first one is acne and oily skin. So one reason when you get on TRT, you are injecting... So acne and oily skin, let me first clarify this. Acne and oily skin are directly related to hormonal levels in the body. This is why puberty affects people differently. Some people get crazy acne while others don't. Some people get crazy oily skin and then break out later. That is all related to your hormonal levels, okay? Now me, I am very thankful. I never have had acne. Even when I went through puberty, I never had acne. My skin is so smooth, so clear, and I never use any products on my skin. I never even wash my face other than, the shower or whatnot. I never use any products or anything like that. I am very, very grateful that I have no acne and my skin is not breaking out and I don't have oily skin. I'm very thankful for that. But one of the reasons acne and oily skin is such a top side effect for TRT is because you are injecting testosterone. You are raising your testosterone more than what your body is used to. And what happens when hormonal shifts happen in the body? Hormonal shifts cause weird shit to happen. So yeah, you may get crazy strong, but your body's also going to see this abundance of testosterone all of a sudden and think, what is going on here? We don't really know what's going on. This extra testosterone is coming out of nowhere. And when you mess with the hormonal levels of the body, bad things start to happen. Acne, oily skin, that can be directly related to a mess up in the hormonal system or an alteration of the hormonal system. Swelling of the ankles due to fluid retention. This is also directly related to hormonal. When you have hormonal imbalances in the body, you retain water. You retain fluid in different places of the body depending on the different hormone and whatnot. But ankle swelling has been related directly to TRT. So it's kind of interesting. Stimulation of the prostate, which can cause urination symptoms and problems urinating. This was one of the ones I read a lot into, but when I was researching TRT, when the doctors first wanted me to be put on it, this was something I looked into a lot because this sounded terrible. Anytime you're having problems urinating, this is definitely not intended from God. Humans, we were designed literally a perfect system. People were designed perfectly by God. Our systems were meant to work perfect. We are never supposed to have problems urinating. Our prostates were supposed to work, the way they're supposed to work. So stimulation of the prostate and can cause urinary symptoms and problems urinating, that sounded terrible. And that was one of the big reasons, one of the huge reasons, one of the reasons I didn't go on TRT. Along with the next one, breast enlargement. It's been shown people that go on TRT, they do eventually accumulate gynecomastia, gyno for short again. This has just been shown over and over. Not everybody on TRT gets this, but a lot of people do. The percentage, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was like over 45% of people that are on TRT get some type of breast enlargement. So that just sounded terrible. Definitely not manly. The next one is worsening of sleep apnea. So this is a funny one because think about what I talked about earlier today. I said sleep can actually increase your testosterone by over 75%. When you have when you get more than 6 to 9 hours of sleep a night, at least 7 to 9, I prefer. When you get more sleep, your testosterone goes up. So why on earth would TRT cause worsening of sleep? And for those of you that don't know, sleep apnea is constant wakenings out of REM sleep. REM sleep is the sleep that we need to recover each day. It's the rapid eye movement sleep. It's the deepest sleep you can achieve. And when you are in REM sleep, your body is recovering, your body is reproducing healthy cells. It's basically in regeneration mode. It's a very good thing to be in. When you have sleep apnea, you don't stay in REM sleep for a long time, and that can cause low testosterone. So think about how asinine this is. And this is God basically saying, okay, you want to inject yourself with TRT? Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it so you can't sleep. So when you mess with your testosterone levels and give yourself more testosterone, all of a sudden you have worsening of sleep apnea. And that will correlate with low testosterone. So it's kind of a one up and one back, literally 2 steps forward and 5 steps back approach, which is the exact opposite that you want happening. The next one is smaller testicles. This is, happens with steroids too. You take steroids, usually people who take steroids have smaller testicles. Also, smaller penises. That's been shown also in research. Why? It's a good question. I don't know why. That you'd have to know somebody who knows a lot about steroids to understand why that happens. But more often than not, you have smaller testicles and a smaller penis when you get on TRT or any testosterone or any like replacement therapy of hormonal, for that matter. The next one is higher red blood cell count. Higher red blood cell count should sound terrifying if you know what that is. If you know anything medically, you should know anytime you're increasing your red blood cell count to crazy levels, and TRT has been shown to do this, you are messing with death. For example, higher red blood cell count is not a good thing. It can cause thicker blood, and thicker blood, oxygen cannot get carried effectively to all organs. Red blood cell count, or your red blood cells carry oxygen around the body. When you have thicker blood, oxygen cannot get carried effectively to all organs. Therefore, your blood flow will just lack. And then what happens when your blood flow lacks, oxygen can't get carried effectively, and you have thicker blood? What happens then? Blood clots. And what happens when blood clots reach the heart? A heart attack. You die. All that can lead to death. Now, am I saying everybody who gets on TRT is going to have blood clots? No, not at all. I'm saying there's a chance of it, and there's a side effect of it. Now, when I was talking about low testosterone, I was saying, there's a side effect of heart attacks. Yes, there is. But what I read and the reasons I didn't get on TRT was because the risk of getting blood clots was a lot higher with TRT than it was just having low testosterone. So it's something you're going to have to think for yourself. Does it sound like it's worth it? Thicker blood is never a good thing. It's never a good thing. So does this sound like anything God intended for you and your body? Does it? Does God really intend for you to have any of those problems? Absolutely not. That is why we don't mess with TRT. That is why we do not mess with any type of hormonal increases outside of what God intended us to be. That's why we don't mess around with steroids or any steroidal product for that matter that is made by man. All right, so we have covered all the way through, how to treat low T according to medical professionals. Now we are going to get to the meat of this podcast. I believe the reason that all of you came to listen to this podcast in the first time, 90 minutes into this, we finally get to this. But this is, the how I treated low T and how I did it naturally. Everything I did was natural. I didn't take anything that was created by man in a lab. I didn't take any injections or anything. Everything I did was completely natural. So as I go through this, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I'm going to be real with you today. Okay, some of these topics you might think, oh, TMI, Sean. Well, you can't have too much information, when you're trying to solve a problem like this. If you're not an adult enough to handle what we're going to be talking about in this list, then this podcast obviously is not for you, because we're going to be going, into exactly what I did to cure my testosterone level and what I did naturally. So be an adult. I'm going to I'm going to be straight up honest with you and tell you just like it is, so accept it. All right, so the first thing I did is pretty simple, but I upped my calories over time. If you have my book, you already know how I approach this, but for when I did this, when I had low testosterone, I was suffering from low T for a while by the time I had been diagnosed. So I didn't know at the time, how much to eat. I thought, let's just up my calories, maybe 300. That would be enough, right? Because at the time I was taking in on a high day, maybe 2,400 calories. So that's on a high day. Now that's not a lot of calories. If you're only taking in 2,400 calories, and like I said, I was 22 at the time, 23. Right around that age, somewhere in there. But I was eating like a bird, basically. 2,400 calories is basically like a bird. I recommend most people in their early 20s are at least around 3,000, preferably 35, 4,000. And if you're really active and do a lot of sports, push that, 4,000, 5,000. I actually talked to a guy in the gym tonight where he's taking his calories to 5 to 7,000 because he is so athletic and he does a ton of stuff outside of the gym. And I told him he has to eat more. He's having trouble putting on weight. And I told him tonight, he just has to eat more food. That's all there was to it. But when you're trying to raise your testosterone, one of the most important things you can do is up your calories. How much to up your calories, you may ask? That's going to be dependent on you. But I can give you some numbers you can play around with, and you can adjust from there. But protein, I liked, and I set protein at 1.25 grams per pound of body weight. So at the time I was weighing around let's see here. I was probably around 125 to 127. I was so damn small. But I basically, I took my body weight, times it by 1.25, and I did that for protein. And then for the fats, I calculated my fats, and from reading, I found that I was not taking in nearly enough fats. So I decided to take my fats to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. And then I took my carbs. I took my carbs all the way to 300 grams. I just decided, you know what? I've been eating like a bird at 150. So in a few weeks, I upped it in like 2 weeks. First week, I upped it like 50 carbs. And then another week, I threw another 50 in. And at that point, I didn't really care if I got fat. I was like, you know what? I just want to prove to my doctor that I can get my testosterone up. If I put on some fat in this, so what? So be it. I didn't really care about getting fat. So when I did this, I really didn't put on much fat when I did this. Maybe some, but honestly speaking, I looked a lot better when I went back to the doctor those 9 months later. So maybe I put on some fat, but more often than not, I was just concerned with my testosterone. I was going to do whatever it took. If it took me getting fat, then so be it. So I upped my carbs. I took my carbs to 300 grams. And then I played with that. Over time, I tried to eat more and more food, and I tried to make it so I was taking in close, to 2,700. And then I slowly over time, in those 9 months, I didn't get over 2,750 or 2,800 calories. I don't think I got over 2,800 calories. Hard for me to remember. Like I said, this was like, let's see here, it's nine years ago. Right around 9. We're in 2021. So actually, no, it'd be about 11 and a half years ago. 11 and a half years ago is when I battled with this. So it's kind of hard to remember exactly what I did. I wrote down some of it, but not all of it. So I'm trying to go from memory here on this. So with those calories, I took them up over time. I wanted to just make sure I was taking in enough food. And I also, if I was hungry, I ate more. If I never, I tried not to be hungry. I thought maybe if I filled my belly with food and I kept myself full, maybe that was a good thing for my testosterone. So for me, I just ate a lot of food. The next thing I did is I already talked about this. I increased fat intake to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight, even more occasionally. Yes, I already talked about that. 0.5 grams is per pound of body weight is quite a bit of fat, but like I said, I knew that healthy fats was good for testosterone. I knew that cholesterol-rich, usually fatty-rich foods bonded with testosterone. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw more of that in my diet, and hopefully it worked. The third thing is I stopped lifting weights in the morning, and I exercising in the morning in general. So, okay. for me, at that time, I was lifting weights in the morning. I might have mentioned this already in this podcast. I don't quite remember, but I maybe mentioned it. I was waking up at 4:30, 5, usually lifting weights about 5:30 in the morning. By the time I was done warming up and whatnot, so I was lifting in the morning in a fasted state. Okay, that is not ideal when you're trying to maximize testosterone. I've already talked about that. Why sleeping in for as long as you possibly can in the morning is the most important thing. Sleep can increase your testosterone, like I've said, by over 75% if you get enough sleep, good sleep quality. So for me, lifting in the morning and cutting my sleep, that was something that I needed to get rid of. So I needed to get rid of training in the morning, and I needed to move it to the afternoon or the evening. So for me, I found that lifting in the evening right off the bat took a transition period. I remember the first week I was so depressed because I would wake up in the morning, I would, go to work without a workout, and I felt like so antsy in my chair all day. At my desk, I was like, I can't wait to get home and lift. And then I found out by the time I got home, I was too tired to lift because it was later on in the day and my body wasn't used to it. It felt so weird to lift It felt so weird to lift in the evening. I mean, this was a transition period. So it literally took me, and I don't know if I've talked about this in other podcasts, but a psychology trick that you can use whenever you're trying to adapt to a new schedule is use the 21-day habit trick. It takes literally 21 days for your brain to reprogram a habit. So if you're trying to get into a new habit of yours, do it for 21 days straight at least. But usually around 21 days, your brain will already make it a habit. It's a really cool trick you can use in anything in your life, and it will make that thing so much easier. So I I accepted the fact that I was going to have to lift in the evening to sleep in more. So I told myself, I'm going to do this 21 days straight. And I did. I did it for 21 days straight. Even on the weekends when I so badly wanted to lift in the morning, I forced myself to lift in the evening. And this was something that took time to get used to. The workouts first sucked. The pump sucked. I didn't like lifting, in the evening after a bunch of food and whatnot. It sucked. It took a long time to adapt to that. But now, 11 years later, all after this had happened, I love lifting in the evening. The evening is my time to train. I train from 4:45 to 5 o'clock, somewhere in there, all the way to usually 6:30, 90 minutes a night, 5 days a week. And that's in the evening. I love lifting in the evening. Lifting in the evening was a game changer for me. My strength skyrocketed, and I'm so much stronger the evening than I am with the mornings. Matter of fact, if I'm ever forced to lift in the morning nowadays, the workouts suck. And honestly, I'd rather lift at midnight at night rather than go to the gym in the morning, just because I know my strength is highest at night. So that is something you need to look at. If you have low testosterone and you are lifting in the morning, I recommend using that time for sleep in the morning before work. Sleep in as long as you can. Maybe, shower the night before. That's something that I started doing, was showering the night before I went to bed. That way in the morning I could just wake up, get ready for work, and go. Making your life as efficient as possible so you can use more time to sleep was a great thing. That's something I recommend for everybody, even if you don't have low testosterone, just making your mornings more efficient. So the next big thing is I stopped all cardio and just weight trained. So at the time I was doing cardio 3 times a week. Also, I was doing some endurance training on the side, and then I was also trying to throw in some weight training. That was before I went and got diagnosed with low T. So I had to stop a lot. This was hard for me to do. I literally decreased weight training to 4 days a week with 3 rest days. At the time, I was training 7 days a week. I was going every single day. I was training every single day before this happened. So once I knew I had to change stuff up, I said, okay, this is going to be what I'm going to do. I'm going to lift 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Take off Wednesday, take off Saturday, Sunday. I think that's how I did it. So I lifted Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And how I did it was I lifted in an upper-lower split. Monday upper, Tuesday lower, rest day Wednesday. Thursday upper, Friday lower, Saturday rest day, Sunday rest day. So that's how I did it. That was my split, and I stuck to that. And I focused a lot on powerlifting. I focused, and this is a lot where I learned powerlifting too, because I was forced to try new things at this time. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try powerlifting, and I got into it hardcore, and I became pretty good at it for the weight class that I built up to. So that was when I really discovered a love for powerlifting at that time, because I focused so much on it. Upper lower split is what I have a lot of my clients on that do powerlifting programs, because it's a very easy system to program into powerlifting. So for me, it was so different in the way that I trained. I stopped doing these long ass workouts. Before this, my workouts were so freaking long. They were usually around 2 hours with, abs and warm up and cardio, and then lifting weights. It was crazy. When I think back to this time, I honestly can't believe I didn't die, because the doctor even said, I could have had a heart attack. My testosterone was so low. And the fact is, I'm surprised I didn't die, how hard I was pushing myself in the morning and not getting nearly enough sleep, only getting, 4.5 hours of sleep a night, and training the way I was. God was really looking out for me, because I'm surprised I didn't just keel over and die. So the next one, I increased sleep. I increased sleep to 7 hours a night at least. And on the weekends, I allowed myself to sleep in as long as I wanted to. So I usually tried to, on the weekends, to get 9 hours of sleep, 8.5 to 9. I forced myself to sleep more on the weekends. If I was tired on the weekend, I might take a nap too. If I was tired in the middle of the day, I literally switched my life into curing my testosterone level. Everything I did in my life at that time was trying to fix my testosterone levels. I didn't do anything besides trying to fix this. Everything I did had a method behind it, because I knew this was the thing that I needed to focus on to get my life back in order. Otherwise, my life was just going to end up in a shit show. So the next few things that I'm going to talk about are some life things, some things that I upgraded in my house, some things I bought, some things I changed. And this is where, some TMI could happen, because some of the things I'm going to tell you, could be classified as TMI. But like I said, be adults about this and realize that when you're low T, you do whatever it takes. So the next one is I invested in a very good pillow. Okay. Sleep, I knew, was the number one thing I had to get more of, and more better quality. So I needed to make sure the pillow I was using, and my sheets and my bedspread and my mattress, I needed to make sure and upgrade all that to the best quality stuff. So I upgraded everything. I upgraded the pillow, mattress, sheets. I literally made it so my bed was a place where I wanted to go every night, and that I literally could crawl into and fall asleep as best efficiently as possible. It was something that I knew that it'd be worth the money to invest in, because this was a big contributor to your testosterone. What I had read, 70-75% testosterone growth or raising your testosterone can come from sleep. So I was like, I'm going to throw a ton of money into that. The next thing I added to my bedroom was blackout curtains. So blackout curtains are a lifesaver. They are just amazing. They literally black out all of the light. So if you have windows in your room, blackout curtains, I highly recommend you get, because what happens in the morning is when your brain senses there's light and sunlight. This is from the evolution standpoint. We are programmed to open our eyes when we have light. So I wanted to make my room as black as possible, so I could sleep as deep as possible and have little interruption. So for me, blackout curtains, I found, made the whole entire room super dark. And I found that I could just sleep better. You can't see anything, so you're forced to close your eyes. You wake up less. This was something that I just did. Another thing is I took the TV out of my bedroom. I was using, the TV to turn on and listen to TV at night while I fell asleep. Well, I read that you should sleep in, a room with no screens or anything like that. So I took the TV and took it out of my room. I still don't have a TV in my room to this day. I keep no screens in my room other than my phone, but I just use my phone as an alarm clock. The point was, I was trying to make this literally a cave to sleep in. It's the best thing that I could do, like comparing to evolutionary standpoint as possible, to make myself, be like a caveman, basically. Sleeping in a super dark room, which I was totally new to. That took a while to adjust as well. The next thing I added to my room was a fan. when I was younger, I used to, hang out with my neighbor a lot, and I'd stay over at his house and whatnot. And I always slept amazing in their house. And I didn't really understand until I thought about it. And one of the reasons I always slept so good over there was because the temperature was always lower than our house, in my family's house. And also there was always a fan going on in the bedroom. Okay, so there was constant airflow, and also that noise, the fan being a static noise. And I always slept so good at their house, and I didn't understand why until I thought about, oh, maybe this is why. And then I decided to read up on it, and I found out that having circulating air in your bedroom is very important. Not just that, but also people can find the sound of a fan to be very relaxing. So relaxing that, in fact, I cannot sleep without a fan on anymore. I have some pretty funny stories about that, actually, from going on vacation this last summer that maybe I'll talk about in another time, about some things with a fan and stuff. But the fan in the bedroom is so important. It's something that I literally need to fall asleep. It's ridiculous. In my backup plan is a static noise generator I use on my phone. So I also use a static noise generator. I generate the noise of rain. I love rain. I've ever since I've little, when it's been raining or thundering, most kids when they're little are terrified of thunderstorms. I loved them. I slept right through them. I loved them. They were so peaceful and calming, which makes sense because I've always loved chaos. My brain, when things are going to hell or chaos is happening, or, catastrophic events are happening, tornadoes, I'm attracted to all that stuff. I love chaos. And I might be a psychopath. So, but I sleep amazing in thunderstorms. So for me, I started using a static noise generator on my phone that I still use to this day of, a rainstorm, basically. And I found it makes me sleep awesome. So a static noise generator was something I also added to my room. Those were the things I really made different in my bedroom. I also lowered the temperature of my house. I found that people with houses above 69 degrees, their performance in the gym suffered. I found that I didn't find. The research showed that under 69 to 68 degrees was actually the optimal temperature to sleep in for raising your performance in the gym. So for me, in the summer, I usually set my house around, 70, just to, because electric bills and everything can be ridiculous with your air conditioner. And then in the winter, I actually turn my heater down to 65. So in the winter, I love the winter. Call me crazy. I know some people love the summer. I love the fall and winter because, for one, it's cheaper. You don't have to use the air conditioner, and you only use as much heat as you need. For me, it's not a lot because I don't need a lot of heat. I get warm very easily, so for me, I'm always trying to cool the house. So in the winter, I just turn my heater down to 65, and if people come over, they usually freeze. But me, I'm in perfect paradise. I'm basically like a Viking. I've been told that before because I like it cold like that. And it's crazy too because my family, they all love the summer. They get so depressed in the winter, and I love the winter months. Something about it, I just love it. Maybe that has to do with me being a psychopath. I don't know. But so those are the big things I did and changed my house. The temperature, sleeping in colder rooms, that was a big one. I found that I decreased the temperature of the room, made it colder. I slept so much better. And then with all the other things, the increase of my quality of my bed and my pillow, my fan, my noise generator. While it sounds ridiculous, at the time, this was not ridiculous. I needed to do whatever it took to raise my testosterone level. All right, so the next thing is some things I started doing personally to try to just increase sleep quality. The next thing I did was warm showers before sleeping. Now, if you have my book, I wrote quite a bit talking about why warm showers before sleeping are so good. But in short, it helps the body relax, it raises the melatonin levels, which is the hormone for promoting sleep. So, a nice warm shower before you get into bed is amazing. And you climb into bed, and if your room is colder, you get out of the shower and you have a natural chill that comes over you. And that chill, literally helps you fall asleep better. And that's something that I recommend to everybody because it can really increase your sleep quality. I'm telling you, I swear by this method. A warm shower before climbing into bed You don't have to wash your hair or anything. Just jump in, and just rinse off with warm water, and it is amazing. Your sleep quality will go through the roof. I promise you that. I can almost make a guarantee for that. The next one, sleeping naked. Okay, so sleeping naked I did quite a bit of reading on this because I found the studies that were done on sleeping naked were actually quite fascinating. And I still do it to this day most of the time, just because of the great things I've read in the studies. I also noticed, just increases in strength and hypertrophy and just a lot of great things from sleeping naked. There's something to it. But a recent study published in the Journal of Human Production found that men who wore tight-fitting underwear had a lower sperm count than those who didn't. This also comes down to body temperature, okay? So sperm production is significantly affected by heat exposure. This is why the testicles always stay around 4 to 6 degrees cooler by hanging below the body. That's how God designed us men. There's a reason they hang outside the body because they are supposed to be cooler. So sleeping without underwear could significantly increase help your sperm count. Also, and anything that helps your sperm count, I think, personally, is directly related to your testosterone level. Also, during this time, I read more studies about too much heat, like hot tubs and whatnot, can actually be detrimental to the sperm production and detrimental because it, raises the temperature of your testicles. So you don't produce as much sperm. So during that time, I didn't really go to a hot tub very often. I tried to just use, warm water before going to sleep. But I tried to really minus my exposure to warm baths or anything like that because I knew that I wanted to keep everything cooler than usual, just to try to promote testosterone. Like I said, I was just spitballing things, trying different things, and seeing what I could do. I was literally trying everything under the sun to increase my testosterone level. Personally, I love the hot tub nowadays. I go in a couple times probably at the Y, a few times a week usually. Not super long, but I enjoy it. I think it helps with recovery and whatnot. As long as you don't abuse it, I think it's fine. I've got that question before, what I think of a hot tub after training, and I think it's fine. If you're suffering from low testosterone, maybe then I would stay out of it just for the time being until you get things back normal. But in the grand scheme of things, there's nothing wrong with going in the hot tub a little bit. Not gonna kill you, not by any means. Another study with sleeping naked. This one was another interesting one I jotted down on my paper to make sure to share here. A study conducted by the U.S. National Institute of Health discovered that keeping yourself cool while you sleep can boost your metabolism. So this is because your body produces more brown fat, that's healthy fat, to keep you warm, which produces heat by burning calories. And when all that happens, that also raises insulin sensitivity. And insulin sensitivity is directly correlated to testosterone level. If your insulin sensitivity is low, remember, if your insulin sensitivity is low, it means you're not handling food the way it should, not handling carbs the way it should. Your body is not producing the insulin it should. It's storing more than it should. You're fatter than you should be. When your insulin sensitivity is high, though, those are the people that can eat anything basically, and it goes to a black hole and it disappears, and they're lean and jacked. You want high insulin sensitivity for many reasons. My sound cut off there for some reason. Okay, so the next one is cold showers when waking. Okay, cold showers when waking. Also another thing too, I just wanted to mention with sleeping naked, before I go on to cold showers, you will notice your sleep quality goes to the roof. If you have ever tracked your sleep quality with an app, you will notice you literally go up 20% on your sleep quality by just sleeping naked. It's absolutely insane. The first times I tried it, it blew my mind because I was, getting around 63%. And just from that change, sleeping naked, my sleep quality jumped up to 78% in just one night. It was crazy. And nowadays, I get right around, 87 to 93% sleep quality every night, according to the app that I use. So as long as the app is working right, and that's I think the name of the app is just called Sleep Cycle. You can check it out. They have a really nice subscription-based thing that you can just use. And it tracks your sleep without you wearing anything, so you don't have to wear an Apple Watch or anything. It measures your breath and everything, and it knows when you go into REM. It's something I recommend to a lot of people just to see how good they are sleeping. So that's just something I just wanted to bring in there. You will notice your sleep quality goes through the roof when sleeping naked. Okay, cool. So next one is cold showers when waking. So cold showers when waking is one of the most painful things and one of the most annoying things that you will have to do on this list, because it is something that takes a while to get used to. But I told myself I was going to do it for this 9 months every single day, and I did it for 9 months every single day. And let me tell you, in the winter, when it is -0 or -0 outside, or under 0 outside in the negatives, and you wake up and you have to jump in a cold shower, it sounds like you are in hell. Just the fact of doing that alone will turn you into a warrior and have a warrior mentality. Cold showers when waking will literally reprogram your body, because if you put yourself into that agony right when you wake up, the rest of the day is a breeze. You could, anything crazy could happen to you and be like, you know what? This is nothing compared to waking up in that freezing cold room and having to jump in a cold shower. So, you know what? I can handle this. And I found my motivation and drive toward other things in life was quite boosted from doing cold showers when waking. I don't do them nowadays, just because I just don't. I don't need to. I do cold showers maybe on the every now and then, like if I wanna, maybe on the weekends or something, jump in. Fine. But I do not do them religiously like I did for this 9 months. I just wanted to donate that time, though, that 9 months, to really see what was capable. But like I said, the cold showers can really change your life. Cold showers boost cortisol, which sounds like a bad thing. You don't want too much cortisol, because cortisol is your fight or flight hormone. When you get into a fight or something, your cortisol raises, and when you go into a super hard workout, your cortisol raises. It's that fight or flight hormone that automatically raises, that makes your body go into fight or flight mode. So having too much cortisol is obviously a bad thing. Your adrenal glands never have rest and whatnot. But here's where it's cool. The cold shower boosts cortisol, which is the hormone to wake you up. So the warm shower at night produces melatonin. And I talked about this in my book, why this works so well. The warm shower at night produces melatonin, helps you relax, helps you fall asleep. And then in the morning, the cold shower helps boost your cortisol, which is the hormone to wake you up. And also there was a recent study from the University of California at San Francisco found that men who were exposed to 30 minutes of wet heat, so showers and baths that were hot per week, when they stopped that practice, when they stopped doing those hot showers, they increased their sperm count by 491%. Okay, 491%. Think about the monstrous amount. I mean, that is crazy. That level of sperm increase is crazy, just from taking away hot showers and baths and replacing it with more, just a warm shower or cold shower. 491% in their sperm count was increased. Now, what that correlates to testosterone, I don't know. It might have only been, a 5% raise in testosterone. Who knows? Depending on the person. The point is, your testicles are happy when they're cold. It all comes down to that. It comes down to the man's body is supposed to be colder. I literally think that is literally something we're supposed to live by, being a man. I believe that men are supposed to just be colder by nature, because it seems to be when men are colder, they're more healthier and their bodies work way more better. This is something that's been shown over and over in research. And this 491% increase in sperm count, just from taking away the hot heat or wet heat, is absolutely insane, and something to definitely think about when you think about utilizing cold showers. But like I said, this is not something you religiously have to do all the time if you're not suffering from low testosterone, or if you're not suffering from low sperm count or anything like that. Maybe if you were trying to conceive, I would be doing cold showers every morning. Every morning I would be doing that, because a 491% increase, you could probably impregnate every single woman on the world if you needed to. 491% increase on top of the normal count of sperm that a man usually produces is an astronomical amount, enough to repopulate several whole planets. It's absolutely insane. The last really cool reason why you might want to try using cold showers in your life is they lower depression and stress levels. So when I was working at a place that I hated working, and I worked there for 5 years, and I this was when I started utilizing the cold showers. I found that my mood went up tenfold. Even though I was working this super depressing job that I hated, I found that my depression kind of melted away. Not at first, because like I said, my testosterone levels were pretty damn low. But I noticed around, let's see here, the third or fourth month into this journey of trying to raise my testosterone, I noticed that my mood levels shifted all of a sudden, where I started to just feel happier. I just felt more happier during the day. I woke up happier. I just started to feel like a different person. And maybe that was, well, it was obviously because my testosterone was slowly going back up to normal levels and I was taking care of my body better and getting more rest and recovery. But I also think these cold showers really help too. That's been shown in studies actually too. The next one is switch to boxer briefs. Okay, let me cover this in a couple things. So switch to boxer briefs. I've already discussed above, how and why, looser fitting underwear is usually better when trying to raise sperm count, and also maybe better to raise testosterone. It can be correlated with that. So for me, what I did was I switched to boxer briefs. They were, I think at the time I was using briefs and I switched to boxer briefs. And boxer briefs, are the best. I believe they are just the best type of underwear you can wear. But I also, when I was at home, I switched to just regular boxers. So everything could be loose and I could, keep my temperature at a lower temperature where it needed to be lower temperature. And it helped, I think, a ton. I think this is something that really helped from my standpoint. I noticed I just started to sleep better. I noticed I was relaxed better, where I could fall asleep better. So for me, I found that using boxers around the house, and then when I left the house, having something a little bit more supportive like boxer briefs, I found that they were a little better. Lower temperature of the testicles promotes sperm growth, which correlates to higher T levels. And like I said, I used boxers at my house, and when I left the house, I used boxer briefs. That was just something I decided to try. I read some studies on it that showed some increases in testosterone. I was like, what the hell? I've already modified my entire life. Why not modify clothes too at this point? So this is something that I did find that it helped quite a bit though, and just all around. Okay, so the next one is lower caffeine intake. Lower caffeine intake. Easier on adrenal glands. That's my note I have on that one. So caffeine intake is, I've talked about this, I think, before, but if not, let's sum up this. Caffeine intake is something that your body adapts to. If you get used to taking, say, 600 milligrams of caffeine to go to the gym, what happens in a few weeks? 2-3 weeks. Usually about 4 weeks it takes to adapt fully to caffeine, but around that time, 3 to 4 weeks, you get to an adaptive phase where then you need more caffeine. You need like 650 to 700 milligrams to feel the same that you did at 600. That's why I do not recommend using monstrous amounts of caffeine ever. This is why I only use coffee nowadays, because I used to go through a phase where I had to get on these crazy caffeine fixes to go to the gym. And I found that once I just started using coffee, it was a nice, calm, clean energy that just worked perfect. And I've always used coffee now since then. But this is something I wanted to make apparent, though, on this podcast, because when you're using a lot of caffeine in your life, your adrenal glands are affected heavily. Your adrenal glands are what you benefit from caffeine. Caffeine affects the adrenal glands and it makes you wake up, okay? But if your adrenal glands are burnt out, they're adapted to higher caffeine, they're going to be burnt out, meaning that they're not going to be able to function right. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel fatigued. So one thing I did was I lowered my caffeine, because before this, I was taking in, like I said, around 600 milligrams caffeine a day. It was crazy. So I decided to kick out the pre-workout altogether and just use coffee. And I tried to keep my coffee to only a couple cups a day at that time. Nowadays, I don't know how many cups of coffee I drink. I use coffee like it's this, the savior of the working day. I love coffee. Coffee's great. I got nothing against it. I use it all the time. But at this time, though, in my life, when I was focused on raising testosterone, lowering my caffeine intake was essential, because what I had read in several books was with, how bad caffeine was on the adrenal glands. So I stopped drinking as much coffee. Maybe it helped. I don't know. Life is better with coffee. This is something that, I had to put on the list because at the time I did lower my caffeine. So I had to put it on the list. Next is started eating like a farmer. So if you have my book, I talk about why I eat like a farmer. That's lots of whole eggs a day, lots of steak, lots of milk. Basically, if you grew up on a farm, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The farm diet is just a man diet. A lot of steak, a lot of dairy, a lot of whole eggs, a lot of bacon or pork or just meat in general. I also used white rice as a carbohydrate. I switched to white bread to lower fiber, which I'll talk about here in a second why I did that. But I just started eating like a farmer. It's all there is to it. Higher cholesterol foods, higher fat foods, just man foods basically. Next is lowered my fiber intake. So high fiber can actually be bad on your T levels. Think about this to what this whole podcast has kind of been about. At the beginning I said how in history it's shown how your testosterone levels in the average American male are dropping about 50 points every 5 years. 4 to 5 years is what the graphs showed. Think about what also the medical professionals recommend nowadays, and they continue to recommend this more and more. You hear this all the time. Eat high fiber diets. You hear this all the time. And more doctors, when you have heart problems, will say, get on high fiber diets. What many doctors don't realize is, high fiber may be a little bit better for your cholesterol and whatnot by lowering your cholesterol, which correlates to or relates to your heart health. But what they are forgetting is the fact that cholesterol is not all bad. HDL is a good thing. So when you're lowering your cholesterol, if you're lowering the HDL as well as your LDL, you're lowering both those numbers, your cholesterol goes lower, your testosterone goes lower. It's all connected, you guys. It's all connected. High fiber is, I think, one of the leading reasons why men nowadays have lower testosterone than they should. Because doctors will promote this over and over. Eat a high fiber diet. My dad goes to the doctor quite frequently, and I'm sure the amount of times they've recommended to eat high fiber is crazy, but I've told my dad, it's not that important. I tell people, get about 25 grams of fiber a day and you're good. At the time though, I was ridiculous. I was taking in so much fiber. It was crazy. And this is probably one of the things that correlated to my institute with low testosterone. Because before I corrected myself, I was taking in 60 to 70 grams of fiber a day. 60 to 70 grams. It's absolutely insane. I was bloated all the time, and I thought that was normal. I was eating tons of vegetables and tons of fruits and tons of vegetables, and I thought that's what you had to do to be healthy. Well, then I read, how fiber can be detrimental on T levels, and I was like, well, I'm taking in like 70 grams, which is 4 times the amount that a normal human should be taking in. So I decreased it. I decreased it to only 25 to 30 grams. And I cannot, let me just say, I cannot describe how better I felt with only a few days of that. My digestive tract cleared up. Any digestive problems I was having went away. I felt like every bloat that I ever had that I thought was normal went away. I wasn't bloated anymore. My digestion was good. And I just started feeling amazing. And I was like, I'm only taking in 25 to 30 grams of fiber. I'm not eating that many vegetables or fruits. I'm having like a salad a day and maybe a banana. I'm not eating a ton of fruit or vegetables. How can this be healthy? Well, I started reading up on how bad fiber can be when it gets over that 30 grams or 40 grams on your testosterone levels. High fiber diets. So listen to this. Okay, I wrote this note down. I had to talk about this. High fiber diets may lower testosterone levels. Okay. So according to a study conducted by researchers at Helsinki University Central Hospital in Finland, scientists found that healthy middle-aged men changing from their regular diet to a low-fat, high-fiber diet experienced significant decreases in testosterone levels. According to the research reported in the March 1983 issue of the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry. So this was done in 1983, before these high fiber diets really came mainstream. So it shows how doctors really didn't listen to this study, because nowadays doctors recommend high fiber like crazy. The amount of times I hear older people, I sometimes lifeguard as a sub at the YMCA, and I hear older people talking about, these higher fiber diets that their doctors put them on. And they also talk about how sluggish they feel when they get on these diets. And I'm thinking, if only they knew what they're doing is making their life so much worse. They'd be better off eating bacon and eggs for breakfast than that high fiber cereal that is clogging their system up. So this was something that I found dramatically increased just the way I was feeling overall. How much it actually helped my testosterone, who knows? I don't know. I just know this made me feel a lot better. So I had to put this on the list, because the fiber I was taking in before I corrected it, it was absolutely just ridiculous. 60 to 70 grams. That's just insane. I can't believe I was taking in those levels. This is another note I wrote down. When I got over 300 grams of carbs a day, I just felt overly all better. And my T levels also just were better. But actually, this was probably due to just more calories in general, though. It probably would have been the same, if I would have increased fats even more. It probably was just related to how much calories I was taking in, So, but it was something I had to write down, and something I did write down, because once I did get over 300 grams of carbs a day, I just felt overall better. So it obviously has helped my energy levels. Lowered my alcohol intake greatly. So, like I said, when I went to college, I had fun. When I went to college, I drank a lot, partied a lot, had my fun, okay? But at a cost. I'm sure my liver probably took a long time to recover from that, because I could drink a ton of alcohol and be fine at that time. I was a pretty huge drinker at the time. I enjoyed my college years. This was something that took me a while to decrease. I wasn't an alcoholic by any means, but I definitely had way more adaptation to alcohol than I probably should have. And my liver was probably way more used to it than a liver ever should have been used to it. So the next thing I started fasting 16 hours a day. So fasting can raise growth hormone, okay? But growth hormone, do not get confused. Growth hormone is not an anabolic hormone, okay? It's called growth hormone, but it's funny because it's not anabolic at all. Anabolic means growing, raising. Anabolic is raising. That's why anabolic steroids, growing, okay? But growth hormone itself is not anabolic. Growth hormone, what it does do though, has been shown to increase life expectancy, help you to be younger just in general, and look younger, age slower. That's what growth hormone has been shown in research to do. So I started fasting 16 hours a day since I learned it could raise my growth hormone. I was like, it probably can do some other things. So I did. I researched it. Fasting also increases your LH hormone, which is your luteinizing hormone. Now, if you know anything about testosterone, you know about luteinizing hormone, because that's a good thing. When you're trying to raise testosterone levels, luteinizing hormone you want more of. You want more of that produced. And what fasting showed was fascinating. And it's probably one of the reasons I still only eat a couple times a day nowadays too, because fasting increases luteinizing hormone of upwards of 67%. That's almost a 70% increase in luteinizing hormone. That's insane. That is absolutely insane, okay? Steroid use is obviously like over 200% increase, 200 to 300%, depending on the type of cycle you go on and whatnot. But 67% just by fasting is absolutely insane to be natural and to increase luteinizing hormone. So I was like, you know what? This is awesome. I'm definitely going to do this. It's probably one of the reasons I still fast to this day. Now, do I fast 16 hours a day? No, I don't. Okay, this is how I do it nowadays. I eat 2 hours before I train, a big meal, and then I eat dinner. Okay, that's all I do. Those are the 2 meals I eat. I don't fast. I obviously fast because there's time where I don't eat, but I don't track it. It's just I eat a big meal 2 hours before I train, and I eat after I train. Dinner usually. I do that just because I don't feel like eating breakfast. That's just I would rather eat a bigger lunch pre-workout meal than breakfast. I've never been a big breakfast eater. So it's just something I do. It's probably, beneficial to some degree, according to this research. And luteinizing hormone is required for your overall testosterone production. Just want to make sure you understood that. Fasting increases insulin sensitivity also, which is also linked to testosterone levels, like we talked about. Higher insulin sensitivity is also a great thing. Fasting increases insulin sensitivity, meaning you can be leaner, stronger, more jacked, take in more food, get less fat, or take in more food without getting fat. This is all from insulin sensitivity. Higher insulin sensitivity is an amazing thing to have. So that's the list of my life changes that I took. Now I realize this is a 2 hour and 15-minute long podcast, is what my timer says right now. Absolutely crazy. But I wanted to make sure and cover everything in this podcast because, like I said, I was going to write a book and make people pay for all this info. And then I decided, you know what? I don't want anything for it. People should know this info and have the right to this info for free. So if you're listening to this and you're 2 hours and 15 minutes in, I'm sure you're going to benefit from it. So like I said, that was the life things. Now we're going to go into the supplements that I started using at this time. Okay, so supplements I started taking. Now you're thinking, okay, Sean, you said all natural. How is supplements natural? Well, what I took was all natural, okay? Nothing I took was, created by man in a lab with genetic adaptation and whatever. It's all natural things in supplemental form, okay? And it wasn't a lot either, as you'll see here what I did. The first thing I knew what I needed to take in more of was vitamin D3. Now, vitamin D3 we know we get from the sun. But the problem is, people don't get enough of the sunlight nowadays. And for, multiple reasons. You work inside jobs. Our lives are basically held over a computer nowadays. If you're lucky, you get, maybe an hour outside every day. If you're crazy lucky, that is. I mean, that's very rare in this time and day and age. So for me, I knew that working in an office job, I needed to increase my sunlight and what I got from sunlight. So for me, I read about vitamin D3 and I figured out how much to take. Now, let me just tell you, vitamin D3 is something you have to be careful with because you can take too much of this. Vitamin D3, vitamin D in general, is a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning that your body stores what it doesn't immediately use. So the difference to that is a water-soluble vitamin, like vitamin B. Vitamin B, you could take a whole bottle and be fine. Your pee would just be lime green like a lightsaber probably and probably destroy the toilet because of, it's just craziness. But if you take in too much B vitamin, you just pee it out. There's no harm in taking in too much B vitamin. And C vitamin too. C is also water soluble. But D is very dangerous if taken too much. D gets stored in the body. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamins that are fat-soluble, you need to be careful with dosage. With that said, most people do not get enough vitamin D. What I recommend is if you live closer to the equator, you don't have to take as much vitamin D because you are closer to the equator, you get more sun exposure, and you're just naturally more outside, okay? That's just a given. So if you live closer to the equator, I might only have you on 1,000 to 2,000 IU a day. But for us people up in north, okay, northern Ohio is where I'm from, or, people in Canada especially. If you're far away from the equator, you need to take more vitamin D because chances are you're not getting enough sun exposure or enough vitamin D. You need at least 20 minutes of direct sunlight exposure to build up to the amount of vitamin D that you need just for normal functioning things, okay? That's not even talking about if you train or whatnot. That's just normal life. You need about 20 minutes of direct sun exposure. That means, let me tell you what direct sun exposure means. It means basically naked exposure to the body in sun for 20 minutes directly. That would equate to enough vitamin D to basically live. We want to maximize that, though, for our gym gains. We want to maximize everything we do and our performance we do. So we're going to need more than that. And also, I want to make sure you guys understand, vitamin D3 is actually not really a vitamin. It's nature's steroid. It's actually a steroid, okay? So vitamin D3 is actually a steroid that God intended for us to get from the sun. It's a steroid that enhances our life, but it's natural. It's a natural steroid. D3 is a natural steroid. Pretty crazy, right? When I first learned that, I was blown away by that. I was like, wow, I've been on steroids a long time. But it's a natural steroid. It's God-given steroids. It's pretty awesome. So D3, we need to be careful with. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. We can build up a tolerance to it. You build up, you get too much of it, you're going to have problems. This is something I recommend building up over time and figuring out the amount that works for you. For me, I did not know what to do. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to start with 1,000 IU. And every week I'm going to up it till I get some of the side effects that I read about. Now, the side effects of getting too much vitamin D is you start to get more sore from your workouts, more sore than you should be. You also get a headache. You get headaches very easily, banging headaches, migraines that just won't go away. Your head will start to itch. You'll be more itchy. Your skin will itch. You'll just be more itchy. You won't break out in hives or anything, but you'll become more itchy. Those are signs that you're getting too much vitamin D. So me being the experimental guinea pig I decided, you know what? I'm going to take my vitamin D to as high as possible, right to the point where I feel those effects. Then I'll back off and I'll find my amount that I need to go to. So I experimented. I allowed my body to be an experimental vessel. So for 1 week, I did 1,000 IU. The next week, I added another 1,000. I was at 2,000 IU. The third week, 3,000 IU. Okay, cool. Fourth week, I added another. So I was up to 4,000 IU. This is where that week I started taking 4,000. I was like, holy shit, I'm feeling amazing. I started feeling my energy level just shot up like crazy. My weights in my workout, I'll never forget the way I felt that first week I started taking 4,000 IU. My sleep quality went up. I started getting a crazy libido. My sex drive went crazy. I was like, whoa, dude, like this is pretty nuts. I was getting horny all the time. I was like, holy shit, what is going on here? And then, so the next week I did 5,000 IU, and the increase from 4,000 to 5,000 was crazy. Okay. It was absolutely insane. I started just being, I was in such a good mood all the time. I felt hyped up all the time. I had so much energy. My libido was crazy. Hopefully not TMI, but, popping more erections during the day. Like, it was nuts, okay? 5,000 IU was crazy. Then I was like, all right, let's go 6,000. 6,000, I didn't feel much difference. I still felt great. I was like, okay, maybe I'm hitting an upper level. So I went to 7,000. And 7,000, I still, didn't feel too much difference. I was like, I'm still feeling great. Then I did 8,000 the next week. So in 8 weeks, I built up to 8,000 IU. 8,000 IU, I started to not feel so good. I was at work. I started to get these migraines. My skin started to itch. I was like, okay, I'm at an upper limit. I know my limit. I know where I should be at. So I decided to get off vitamin D altogether, let my body use up what it does, because remember, it's a fat-soluble vitamin. So I went off of it altogether because it stores up vitamin D. So I was taking, a day, 8,000 IU. So my body had built up a monstrous amount of IU that needed to be replenished, as the days went on. So I went off of it completely for about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I noticed everything started to feel normal again. So I was like, okay. From my research that I've done on myself, I found that 5,000 IU I felt really good at. So I decided to keep it right around 5,000 IU. And long story short, 5,000 IU is what I use to this day. Every day I take 5,000 IU of vitamin D. I split it up usually. I do 3,500 usually with my first meal, and then the rest, with my dinner. And I found that worked really well. So for me, to this day, I take in 5,000 IU. Now, do I recommend you do what I did and use yourself as a guinea pig? Don't do that. Don't do that. That is something that you should not do. I took the risk. I didn't care what happened to me. I was doing this as an experiment on myself. What I recommend for most people is take 2,000 to, depending on if you're in Canada. If you live in Canada, maybe you need to take about 4,000 to 6,000. Most people will be fine with 2,000 to 5,000. Find that limit that works for you. You'll know when you get it there, because like I said, if you're never used vitamin D3, it'll change your life, and you'll start you'll start just being a crazy horn dog. Let's just say that. Your libido goes to the roof. You start feeling like a man. Let's just say that. And let's move on. Okay, L-carnitine, 2 to 4 grams a day. So L-carnitine, all I read with this is it can help with blood flow. And I was like, if something can help with blood flow, it's probably a good thing. 2 to 4 grams a day is what I use. Also, a little trick for you guys too. If you're going to get with a woman, about an hour before you're going to get with her, take 4 grams of L-carnitine and thank me later. Okay? I'm just going to say that. Thank me later. You'll know what I'm talking about when the time comes. It'll change your sex life. Amazing. Zinc, the third one here. Zinc, 50 milligrams every night before bed. Okay, so if you have my book, you know how much I love zinc. Zinc is super important for so many things in the body. Zinc helps with cell division, cell regeneration. It basically turns your body into a superhuman, I think. I think when you get more zinc, it's crazy. What I did too was I didn't take a zinc supplement at first. I forced myself to eat oysters every night before bed because I was so motivated to raise my testosterone naturally that I forced myself to eat a whole thing of oysters every night before bed. And I had the most craziest sexy dreams ever. Okay. I mean, if you never taken zinc before bed, you don't know what I mean, but it enhances your dreams. Your dreams, you see colors in your dreams. You feel things in your dreams. If you have a sex dream when you're on zinc, taking 50 milligrams of zinc before bed, it feels like real life. It's one of the most amazing things you will get from zinc, other than the fact that it's just damn good for you. So for me, what I did then, once I realized that you can use the supplement form, I decided, you know what, I'm going to make my life easier and just take a supplement. So I just started taking 50 milligrams every night before bed. And that's what I still do to this day. 50 milligrams of zinc every night right before bed. Not with dinner. Zinc has to be taken without food. Do not take zinc with dairy especially, because zinc and dairy fight for absorption in the body. So if you're going to eat like some Greek yogurt or something before bed, wait a couple hours before you take zinc to make sure that dairy has digested out of your system, because zinc and dairy fight to the death to which one is digested evenly. So always take zinc without food. That's something I wanted to make sure that you knew. To always take zinc without food, and I take it right before bed. Zinc is essential dietary mineral. You need zinc for your immune system to function properly, and also for cell division. Zinc helps enzymes break down food and other nutrients. It also plays an important role in enzymes that build proteins. It can be found in certain foods, but it also is available in supplements and even certain cold medications. A lot of cold medications use zinc. They don't use up to 50 milligrams, though. 50 milligrams is a high amount. I wouldn't recommend taking more than that. Okay, so having a zinc deficiency can lead to low testosterone. Okay, exactly why a lack of zinc impacts testosterone levels, it's not fully understood. The mineral may affect the cells, though, in the testicles that produce testosterone. That's what's been linked. So those 3 supplements, that's all that I added to my repertoire. That's all. I didn't take anything crazy. Vitamin D3, 5,000 IU, L-carnitine, 2 to 4 grams a day, and then zinc, 50 milligrams every night. Besides that, I stuck with my same multivitamin, a B complex. If you have my book, you know everything I take. I didn't take anything crazy to raise my testosterone level. I just took these simple 3 things. And honestly speaking, probably zinc and D3 is the most important things that I took supplemental-wise. So yeah, after 9 months, I went back to the doctor. And like I said, I had taken my testosterone from 220 to 530. 140% increase naturally in 9 months by doing all that stuff above. Now, how much of that stuff actually correlated to the increase? I don't know. Maybe it was just the increase in calories. Maybe it was just the better sleep. I don't know. What I do know is that once I started doing some of these other things, I noticed my life in general was better. So if my life was generally better and it took away stress, less depression, I figured, I might as well include it in this list for people because it can help them. If you have lower stress levels, lower depression, it can help with lower testosterone levels. And also, I want you guys to know, if you are suffering from low testosterone, don't feel bad. It sounds like an embarrassing problem, It's something that I was embarrassed to talk about at first. I was like, I don't want to discuss this. I don't want women to know that I suffered from a low testosterone, low T levels. It's not very manly. But don't think about it like that. Think about it as just this problem that is constantly getting worse, that many men are suffering from, that many men can fix naturally and a lot easier than you may think. And they don't have to go on TRT replacement for the rest of their life. For me, it was crazy. I got to leave the doctor's office that day thinking and feeling so damn successful. Because had I not done all this, had I literally just said, you know what, doctor, put me on TRT, I would have never learned any of this, and I would have depended on, for the rest of my life, every 10 to 14 days, getting TRT replacement. Because here's the thing you cannot forget. When you get on TRT, you are on it for life. Because at that point, your body is forgetting how to make testosterone itself, because it's depending on the testosterone that it is being given to you from your doctor. So your body starts to say, oh, we don't need to make testosterone anymore. This is probably one of the reasons the testicles get smaller after you go on TRT, because the body realizes it doesn't need to worry about testosterone because it's going to get the replacement therapy. That is something that God does not want to happen. I guarantee you that. God gave us men all the ability to create testosterone. He designed us the perfect system. He designed us as a masterpiece that our sexual organs can literally generate all the power that a man has. All the power men have comes from testosterone. It all comes from those sex organs. That's why I can't stand it, when so many people get embarrassed about talking about this kind of stuff. A lot of people could not do what I did today and talk about it right without laughing or whatnot. And I hate that, because in our day and age, this stuff is so important to know. Being a man, you need to know how to maximize your testosterone, because having high testosterone can change your life. It can really change your life. Like I said at the beginning of this, if you have 1,000 testosterone level, if your testosterone level is that high, you are living an amazing life. I guarantee it. You could be poor and probably still live an amazing life because your testosterone is so high, your drive is so high, your work ethic is so high, your sex drive is so high. And that just correlates to a better life. There's just no better feeling in the world than having a higher testosterone count. So for the men suffering out there, my prayers are with you. And I'm on your side. I went through this. I know this battle. I know that it is an embarrassing thing to talk about and discuss. But stick with what I gave you today. Stay patient. Raising your T level takes patience. I went to the doctor 9 months later because, I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track. That's the only reason I went. Honestly speaking, I probably wasn't going to go back for at least 12 months to give myself a better number, but I just wanted to make sure that I was on the right track, that I wasn't doing more harm than good. And when I saw those numbers, it just made me realize how damn good these natural methods worked. So you have to stay patient. You might not be able to increase 140% in 9 months. Just stay patient though. It will work out in the long run. I guarantee you can do it naturally. And like I said, having higher T levels, it equates to a better life. You're just going to feel better. And there is hope for you. God meant for men to be men. So with all that said, guys, we are at 2 hours and 31 minutes. Feel free to email me at fawsey14@gmail.com. That's FAUSEY14@gmail.com, or DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I always respond to every single DM I get. I don't leave one go under the rug. I always respond. I take any question. No question is a bad question. I love all questions. I will always answer all questions. Thank you guys for all the support. Also, for your convenience, attached in this podcast, wherever you watch this podcast, there's going to be a link, a small link. I'm going to try to make it a bit link, so it's a very small link. You can copy that link into a browser, and it will take you to my Google Drive, where I have put the show notes that I have put into this podcast, and I put them into a PDF document for you. So that if you have friends that are suffering from low T and they don't know what to do and they don't want to listen to this whole podcast, there's show notes out there for you. Just use that link that I attached. It's also going to be found. I'm going to put this in my link in my tree link, or free link. Is it tree link or free link? Whatever it is, it's on Instagram. My link on Instagram that has all my links. This link to this podcast, this show notes will be in there, so you'll have access to it. You can just click on the link, download it, completely free, no charge, and it's all for you. And with that said, guys, we will see you next week. God bless and stay strong.